Hey everybody, we're live again for another one. This is episode slash stream 11 of me making a WebOS desktop environment, whatever you want to call it, with React and Next.js. For the first time seeing these videos from me, thanks for checking it out. My name is Dustin Brett. I'm a programmer from Vancouver, Canada, powered by Purple Red Bull today. Nice. And I'm going to keep this pretty informal, my streams. They're getting more informal every time. I actually made a lot of progress this week and just kind of leading up to the stream as far as what I'll try to get through today with you guys. I don't know how long I can survive if I do a 3-hour one. We'll see. But I got a lot done, so I'm excited to show it. But the informality part, I'm going to be peeking at my notes that I've kind of made throughout the week for a bit because I've actually done so much that it's like, how did I do this? Why did I do that? I have to kind of double check, but I'm going to paste it and kind of go along with you guys. And some of the styling, I might just dump in and then we'll go over them line by line and be like, this is what I did for this is what I did for that. Because if we mess around with fine tuning every little variable during these streams, we'll get nowhere. It'll take forever. So I spent a lot of time just like pixel perfect zooming in and stuff. And maybe on one episode, I'll kind of show you guys my methods for that. I think I have before a little bit, kind of showing you in a virtual machine, kind of how I looked at how Windows is to reverse engineer the styling and stuff. So we'll get into that at some point. This is a live stream, so feel free to throw some messages in the chat, say hi, whatever, that kind of thing. Questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to throw in there, code, I'll take it. And yeah, quickly, just before we go any further, I'm going to jump into the browser here and I'm going to show you the project that I originally did. It's kind of still running on x.dustinbrett.com if you want to check it out. This is my V1. This is kind of what we're going towards with what we're doing now. See, we got a start menu, some cool hover effects, got the clock here. And you'll see that it's what I have now is kind of looking similar. I can quickly jump to what we have now as of last episode. This is what we have as of last episode. So comparing to that one, this one changes colors, the background, but the wallpapers are pretty much the same. The start button I've got pretty much the same. You can't see the clock in this stream because my video is in way of the clock, but they're pretty close. The styling's different, but I actually prefer my new styling. In general, I prefer the things I've done in the new one. So, and if there's any problems with the stream, throw me a comment, please, if you guys are hearing audio issues, lag, anything like that. But yeah, so I got two of them here. That's that one kind of going good. That's the one we're working on now. This is the old one. It was reasonably popular, has some cool stuff it does here. This is like Mac-ish. We're going to do Windows this time with the entire theme, not just the start menu and stuff, but a lot of the other stuff as well. So, and yeah, I got DOS in here. That's going to be a fun one when we kind of figure out how I did that, because it's actually quite simple, to be honest. I mean, with libraries, the people that made the library, it's not very simple for them, I'm sure. It was a lot of work, so. And this is the repository, DustinBrett/X on GitHub. I've been lucky enough to have 1,300 people that felt it was worthy of throwing a star my way, so that at least means that's pretty good for GitHub, you know. So I'm proud of that. And yeah, without any more kind of chatting, let's get right into. As you can see here in this browser, I'm in a list of commits. That's the commits from last episode, from last stream, which was March 6th. Do these every Saturday at 9 p.m. PST if you guys want to check one out if you're watching this after the fact. Got a couple of viewers watching, so at least I have someone checking me out. Thank you, viewer. Appreciated. And by the way, if you guys like this stream, please throw me a like. If you like what I'm doing, subscribe. It's super appreciated, and it kind of keeps my steam going, you know, to do these. And I'm hoping to do more videos in between my streams in the near future. I did a couple like last month, or it feels like a while ago now, but life just goes fast, you know. I mean, I've managed to keep up these streams, which is something. So I'm posting once a week at least, but I'd like to do more because I have more ideas. I got tons of things that people have requested videos for as well already. So thanks for that, and I'll get to them. But yeah, let's go. So last episode, I'm just going to summarize this. Basically, the main three things: tons of refactoring and stuff that I like to get into. I did a lot of that last episode, but the big takeaways was making the desktop shortcut and making the file manager. And if we jump into the code, that's kind of where we're getting this shortcut here is coming from a file that we've created, .url file, and it's kind of doing some parsing, and it's my attempt to kind of stick to a file standard, and kind of just have fun with how I can make my desktop shortcuts kind of unique. So that's how I've done that. And then as far as that's the desktop shortcut, and the file manager is the thing showing it. So that's on the desktop right there. The thing that's, I mean, we'll get into it more, but there's an ordered list there with list items, and that's the file manager. But all you see now is just a desktop shortcut. The cool thing about that is that this file manager will be interchangeable with some of my other components in the near future, like the Explorer window for looking at files. That's also a file manager. The start menu, the program list, that's a file manager. So we're going to be able to put this file manager component in several places and leverage its ability to access this fake file system and look at shortcuts and kind of make lists that we can use to interact with our fake OS, or whatever you want to call it. As you'll see today, I think my light is strobing different colors. Hopefully that's not too distracting. I wanted to try something different with the lights. At some point I'm going to buy some like more professional lights, but I'm going to kind of let my YouTube thing go on for a while and just see how that goes. So if it gets popular enough, I'll buy some better lighting, and then we can see what people think about it. But for now, I'm happy with this lighting. Throw me some feedback. So yeah, that's the gist of what we did recently. And like I say, you can see it in the place I showed you there, and also we're going to have it up here for display. And the way I kind of been doing these streams is kind of just getting into it. I got a list of things here where I kind of do some maintenance, housekeeping, refactoring, and then we kind of get into doing some more components and stuff. And what have I labeled this one? I think it's called like Windows. What are we going to do? We're going to do dragging. We're going to have dragging windows. We're going to have resizable windows. We're going to have the title bar. We're going to have minimize. We're going to have maximize. We're going to have close. And if you look at the app right now and I click Hello World, you see that little Hello World. That is the window right now. Now the window is very basic in that it doesn't even have kind of dimensions to it right now. So it just kind of pops up there. It's even popping up below that list item, which is not ideal. So we're going to kind of try to solve all these problems in the stream about how this window's looking, and kind of really make it feel like, oh wow, this is getting Windowsy, you know? So let's get right into it then, you know? I'm going to refresh this page so the window's not there. So we just see it basic, and then as we kind of evolve the window, we're going to be refreshing it and opening it and checking it out. So let's get right into the NPM updates that I always do. Let's see what we got here. NPM outdated. Now my NPM update command's not working the way it used to, so unfortunately we'll probably have to do a couple commands here, but I'm going to do NPM update. It looks like it's just ESLint stuff mostly and some types. It's not going to do 3JS, which I don't want it to. It used to be when I ran NPM update, it would update my package.json file. Those days are gone. I don't know if I broke my repo or what I've done, but it doesn't update now. So I think maybe my lock file is just a little wonky. I'm not sure. But that's I'm going to dig into that at some point and kind of figure it out, because it's still not working right. In fact, let's make a next stream note for that already. I'm already planning the next stream. I just started this one, but I don't want to deal with it today. But let's say one of the things for the next stream is going to be figure out why NPM update doesn't update package.json. Because it used to. Go back to the streams and you'll see that it used to work. And once we figure out what it is, we could probably go back and it's like, oh, in episode 6 at hour, the first hour, 12th minute, here's where I made the mistake. And that's kind of the beauty of these streams too. And programming in general is like, when you think, oh, it's weird, or why did it do that? It's like, well, there's probably a reason, And if you got it all recorded, you could probably find out when the mistake really did occur and where the oversight was. But at the moment, I have no idea. So my solution is this other package called NCU, which I'm going to run here, NCU-U, to do an upgrade. But at the same time, we're going to have to make sure that our 3JS file stays at this version that I wanted. So we'll do that. We'll run the command here. And we have to run npm install to get the latest one there. There we go. And now if I go back into my package file here, oh, and I actually wanted to put this back before I ran npm install. Let's run npm install again. Hopefully that should knock it back down a version for 3JS. What's this Vanta? Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. There's another thing called Vanta that I was looking at the other day, but yeah, there's the wallpaper one, of course. So there we go. So we got the updates we wanted now. Cool. NPM updates. Done. No, I won't put that. I'll just say NPM updates. That's the easy one. That's going to be the easiest one. So let's get into some of these refactors. So I think in the last episode I disabled prop spreading, or I stopped disabling it, but I actually kind of like it. and I've decided to bring it back. I think I'm going to use it a few more times in this episode. So I'm just going to go in because there's a few places here where I just disabled the rule, which I don't like doing that either. I mean, I'm disabling the rule globally now, but I don't like line by line because it's like, well, what are the exceptions I do allow? Because the things I disallowed, I don't even completely agree with disallowing them. So I'm just going to put this back. Prop spreading off. Don't warn me about that. I like prop spreading. And prop spreading is just this thing here of dumping your properties into a component with the spread operator, I think it's called. I don't know what it's called. I can't remember. I have one more place where I was ignoring it. Yeah, this one too. So we're not going to ignore those, and we're just going to go back to the way I preferred it, which was to allow that. So I'm going to write that down. Allow prop spreading, and let's throw another commit in the bucket. And what's the next one? Create button component. Yeah, I wanted to do this. I'm calling this a refactor, but yeah, it's a refactor. It's making a new component at the same time. But if we look here for button, I think close all my stream notes here where I have it. So we got here some global rules for how I want buttons to be, but I'd actually like to just make a global button that I apply that to, because I pretty much have a lot of things that I want the HTML button property to have kind of tagged with it. And I'm just going to put all that in one place to kind of centralize it and formalize it. So the file entry has a button right now where it says type button. And I don't want to have to specify type button again. And I think here in the styled button, the start button is a styled button. And it's also where I'm going, hey, I want to specify type button. And I didn't make a shortcut. I didn't make a link here, but I want to go into styled components and show you what I want to leverage here. Hopefully it's easy to find. Like I said, I didn't bookmark it, unfortunately. Darn it. Let me see. Extending. Yeah. Oh, this is a perfect example. It's even called button. So perfect. Yeah. So in the example, this is what I want to do basically, is I want to have this where I pass button here, and I'm going to make a component called button basically. So we go back to the code, and I'll just make it right up here at first. I'm going to make one that's called button, just like the example. And I'm going to take this piece here. I like that actually. And what are the properties I wanted on the button? I'm going to take those global properties, and I'm just going to use them and get them out of the global scope. And that might even make CSS like slightly more efficient. I don't know. I mean, if what I'm saying is like that's in the global scope of the CSS. So now it's like only when these buttons exist, and just add it specifically to these buttons. So now my button is a special button in that it's typically a type button with a background color transparent and a font family inherited. So I guess I could say inherit here too. Maybe I should. I basically just want to reset these properties, but I like the button background being transparent by default. So I don't know if that's the inherited property, but I'd prefer that. And I guess it's the same as inheriting in this case. That's a tricky one. Is it the same as inheriting? Yeah, because if it's transparent, you want whatever the parent is. So maybe I should just say inherit. Let's see how that goes. Anyways, so we save that, and then we do like the example here where we say button, just like that. So now, very simply, we can just go boom, button. And we can use that here for the file entry as well for now. Because yeah, the li is separate from a button here. We want buttons, we want interactive button elements for interactive stuff. So now we don't need this piece here, and we can now import button. No, I haven't created a component file for it yet. Let me do that. Styles, I'm gonna make a common folder now, because this is a common generic component that's like just a better version of the button that I want basically, compared to like an HTML button. And I'll call it button with a capital B, TS. And now we'll just take it out of here where I had it, dump it in there. We do an export of that as the default for there. And I need to import styled as well. You need styled. There we go. That should make it happy. So we got our cool generic button. Let's import it here so we can use it. Yes, I'm going to copy that exact same thing to use here as well. Oh, not there, I guess. It wants it to be somewhere else, alphabetically speaking. Yeah, one down. There we go. So that should fix that. Let's save all these and see. Yeah, the errors are gone. So as you can see, that inherit background color thing, it might be, I don't know if it's hard to see or not, but that did not give the desired effect. So I should have kept it as transparent. Let's fix that. Yeah, transparent is what I want. And in a perfect world, that would be like inheriting, but I guess it doesn't make sense that it would be. Where did I put that darn button? I just moved it. There it is. So let's stick to transparent. That's better. And if I save that, it still does not look how I expected. What happened here? Let's refresh the page. Reload. That fixed it. Classic CSS. What about if I put inherit back? Oh, now inherit's working? Let me refresh the page again. Okay, no, inherit didn't work. See, I don't know if that's a styled component issue or a Next.js or Webpack, but that change requires a reload. Okay, so transparent's what we wanted there. Otherwise, I think we made our generic button component. Yeah, so we're using it here now instead of the HTML element. We imported it. We got the global stuff out of there, and we just applied directly to the button. And that's that. So what did I call this in my notes? I like to use what I noted it as the commit message sometimes because it's just easier. Create button component. There we go. It's a reasonable name for it. Extract out icon and remove font awesome. Yeah, I've decided to get rid of the font awesome icon for now because I just used it for this Windows icon and it seems a little inefficient to import all that just because this is an SVG. So I can just right click, inspect, get the SVG and then work with it. And that's what I want to do. So that's what I'm going to do. And just a little pre-baked, where sometimes they go, and we've already made the cake. I already do have the Windows icon, so I'm just going to find where I've made that note so I can copy that. But it's the exact same SVG, I believe, as the Font Awesome one. And I've just kind of perfected the size for it, in my opinion, And I think there was one other piece to it, actually, that's kind of wonky. Yes, it's not wonky, but let's get into it. Essentially, Font Awesome does kind of, it's an SVG, but it treats it as a font. Where is it here? It's in my start button. There it is. So yeah, Font Awesome icon, FA Windows. So let's just get rid of all this. And in its place, we just want something called Windows icon. And we're going to make an icons file, system file, I think, for like system icons. I wonder if I should call it system icons. Let's just call it icons. It's already in the system folder. So icons.tsx, because we're going to use some JSX. And what do I got in my clipboard? Windows icon, right. Const Windows icon. Well, I already have the entire thing. I'm just going to paste it in here for you guys. Wait, where's the better version? I slightly tweaked it. Oh, okay. I'll paste it in here. And then at one point I thought I should set height here to get exactly the way it was on Font Awesome. But I'm going to try to do that on the CSS side. So let's get rid of that here. And that's basically what the icon looks like. It's complaining because I have the default export rule, which I actually like most of the time, so I'm going to keep that. But for now, I'm going to ignore this on this line. And we'll come back to this later. What is this? ESLint, that. I'm trying to remember how to do it. ESLint rule off. There we go, yeah. So I'm just going to disable this temporarily. Once I have more icons in here, that won't be an error anymore. But when there's only one export, it wants you to use the default, but I don't want to do that right now. And it's more lines to change if I do that and then change that later. So let's import our Windows icon, assuming it detected it. It did not. Let's just type it in manually. From, what was it? Components, system, /icons. Yeah. Do I need a capital I for icons? Yeah, that's nice. I don't need it, but I want it. And then do some sorting here. There we go. So we got our icon, and it actually, as you can see, it looks like a big Windows looking thing. So it's too big. So let's start with that. Let's get to our styled start button. Oh, it was a little slow on me there. And there were some tweaks here I wanted to do in regards to the styled start button. Yes, exactly like I was saying. So when it was treated as a font, you would use color to change the text color and also these icons. And the size would be set by font size. That's pretty cool. Works with the name Font Awesome, but we've turned it into an SVG. So now the size is going to be determined by the height. And we need to specify that on the SVG element within this start button. So SVG height equals 19 pixels is what we were trying to hit. That's what the other icon was, the Font Awesome icon. So we just want to match that. And color will now become fill. And alphabetically, it's in the wrong spot now. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. HIJ, there we go. And same here, when we hover over it, it'll also be fill. So let's save that and see if that fixed anything visually. That fixed it. So now, as you see, the hover works. The icon right there, as you can see when I hover over it, it changes blue and everything. So cool. So now let's also uninstall Font Awesome, npm. Let's go into package.json and see what we had for Font Awesome. I think there's 3 things. Yeah, there's the core. So npm remove the core, the base, the brand icons, which is where we got the Windows brand one, and the React part of it, because we don't need that stuff right now. So remove all that. It's gonna make things cleaner. I didn't have any types for that, so there's no types to remove as far as I can see. I could search for the word font, fort, whatever they were calling it. It's gone anyways. So there we go. So if we look at that refactor, we've essentially got rid of 3 main dependencies, which is nice. And we've created this one Windows icon. And some notes on this icon. I don't know if this is the exact SVG code, because what I do is I take the SVG and I take it to this other website called SVG Compressor. Oops. Compressor. And it's actually a pretty good site. Is it this one here? Yeah. And I just go paste markup and I paste the SVG in. And it actually will do a lot of things to kind of clean up the SVG and just make it a little bit smaller and a little bit as small as possible, you know? Because if you look at the code of my SVG, it's actually quite small. Like all it has is just a view box here and just one path. And that's all you need to make that Windows icon, which is kind of cool. It's very little. Like how long is this? 153 characters, and that's including all this gibberish. So it doesn't require much to describe how the Windows icon should look. And it's pretty darn close to how the real one looks. So I'm happy with that for now until I can make it even more pixel perfect. But that's for another day. It's good enough. So let's just say we finished that. And and also on a note of styling, I think today is going to be a sloppy day for the theme. I'm going to leave the theme mostly alone, other than a few renames. Putting all this CSS stuff into the theme it needs to happen, because then we're going to have other themes we can do. But it's tedious, and I haven't even completely perfected how I want the theme layout to look. So let's leave that. Let's table it. You know, I mean, let's just get the styling there, and then we can extract it all out. It's just a slow process. You know, I need a co-op student to help me out with that. That's a joke. It's not a joke, I guess, if I have to tell you, to be honest. So I guess it's not a joke. All right. Extracted out Windows icon and removed Font Awesome. Extracted out Windows icon. I don't know if that sounds right. Let's just commit it before I overthink it. Yeah, let's get that out of there. Boom. Let's do a quick npm run ESLint and npm run build just to see what I've broke, because I'm sure I broke something. It typically happens. Otherwise, yeah, I've finished that one as well, it looks like. I feel like I got most of it, if not all of that. Reduce amount of types files. Yeah, this is something I kind of wanted to do. I want to have my types files at a minimum, actually, and just trying to keep my types as close to where they need to be as possible. There aren't a ton right now, to be honest. But there's a couple that I want to clean up. So if we go to types, so the wallpaper one, let's get rid of that one first of all. And where do I want that to be? I think that if we go into the styled, yeah, we're importing it here, but this is like a main place that we're using it right here within styled. So I feel comfortable just having it here, and then the other things can import it from styled, because this is where I keep the default theme. This is where I keep what a wallpaper effect is. You know, to me that makes sense. So let's find that other wallpaper effect. Here I'm using it. And I'm just going to be really lazy with how I fix this. I'm going to delete it, and I'm just going to auto import again. Hover over, import, there we go. And then fix the fact that it's a type. There we go. So that was simple enough. I just removed that one, and now I can delete the wallpaper one and the folder styles altogether. So that's an entire folder and a file that I just got rid of in the types. And now all that's left in types is the contexts. And the process context is the one I'm going to keep in there for now, because process and processes is very shared on a lot of places, but process map and process context state is not. So I'm actually going to take those two, put those together, and just cut them out and just clean this piece up. So that part of process I'm going to leave alone, and I'm going to move these other two pieces into the process context, I think it is. Where does it make sense to have that? I think it's within the use process context state. This is where the rubber hits the road with this thing. So I like having the type here because it's like those are totally connected right now, you know? Maybe at some point if this file gets too big, I might move that out of there. But for now, I like having it close here. It just makes it easier. And if I'm only at 30 lines, hey, it's no big deal. And now I don't need to import these two things. But I do need to import process now, I believe. So I'll also import process. And I don't need process map anymore. There we go. Spell this correctly. Nice. And we don't need to export process map, I don't think. No, I'm only using it here right now. So I'll just make that a type. And the context state we are using in other places. So let's see where we're using it. Here we were using it. Again, I'm going to just delete and do import because that's easier. And then have auto fixing kind of help me out along the way to clean that up. And here as well. Get rid of that one. There we go. And import that. And fix the type. Boom, boom. There we go. So that's another one saved. So I've shrunk the process one down, and I can actually get rid of the other two. So this file system one, I like with this one too, this line I don't need anymore because the place I'm going to move it already has that line. So we'll just delete the file system file right now for that type, and we'll go right into using it here within the context state. So there we go, just like that. And now we don't need to import it here. Like I said, we already have FS module. And then let's see where we're using this. So we're using it here. We'll get rid of that. Do our auto import of it. I'm really liking the quick fix. I should probably find out the keyboard button to do the quick fix command, because that would even save me a few more seconds. If people like watching me do stuff on the computer fast, assuming it was fast. Maybe this is a fast speed to some people. I have already done some of this stuff just recently, so I think that probably makes it a little faster. And if you guys need to slow down or go back, you can kind of see where I'm going. Sometimes it can be a little hard if you're just jumping into the streams to know where I'm at with this, but that's my hope, that if I can make the code clean enough, it can be more sensible when you guys just jump in to go, oh, okay, he's working on like a window, and okay, well, it has a title bar, all right, you know, or whatever we happen to call these things. So what have I got left for types? I don't think I've done session yet, so session is the last one. And again, I can just get rid of this file. So now in our types folder, we only have types, and we have a context folder within that, and then within that just process. So essentially there's only one time where we needed to move the types out because it was just used in too many places to make sense of it. But even that, you could argue that like, oh, maybe I could put process somewhere. Where would it make sense? Maybe it makes sense to have it in the process directory, because that's where you get the access the processes. Honestly, it does make more sense. So let's go one step further in a second here. Let's put this session where I wanted it to be. There we go. We don't need to import it. Let's see where it's being used so we can fix those use cases. Oops, I shouldn't have deleted that spare line. Not that it makes a difference. Quick fix, boom, boom. And one more place we need to fix it. And then I think we've kind of cleaned all those up. Has to be a type. There we go. Boom. Save that. There we go. So we've cleaned those ones out. And now the only other one, and now like I said, I was thinking, hey, let's leave these here. But maybe process directory is a nice place for them for now, honestly, because that's where the processes do stuff. Or not do stuff, that's where they're defined essentially, like literally defined. So having it there, I like it there, honestly. We're going to have to fix quite a few imports, I think. But yeah, this makes sense here. And now this file doesn't need to exist. The entire types folder doesn't need to exist anymore. Get rid of it. Oh, I love it. An entire folder gone. That's nice. That's a nice feeling. So let's see where I've broken it. I'm going to run ESLint to try to make this easier. I think ESLint will be able to find all the places where I've not done import correctly. Maybe not. Looks like it has, yeah. Oh, cool. It's very few places. I'm happy to see that. Hopefully that's true. So let's import it here. Oh, it was already importing process directory too. So it's like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense for it to be in process directory. And what about this one here? Same story? No. But anyways, let's do the import. Import this. Import that. And switch to types. There we go. So if I run ESLint now, does it complain? Dun, dun, dun. Nope. And if I run a build, I think that'll probably work too. And what that will mean is that this refactor is complete. So I've got rid of all the types files now, and I've put them into places, and I've updated all the imports, and building works. So nice. I consider that a win because it's just cleaner in my opinion for now. Let's not have more folders than we need. So reduce amount of types files. I reduced it down to 0. Let's just say removed the need for types files. And maybe I have, maybe I'm not going to use types files again because it kind of separates that context, and that's where the files might need to get longer. I don't know. Or maybe I'll put the types files side by side so I don't need a folder that's separate. Folder structure is a tough one, I'm open to opinion there, but I need to think about it. So don't need overflow anymore. If you guys remember in a few streams, I've kind of been hum and hawing about the desktop having an overflow hidden. And I think that was because I had position absolute before. And I think it was treating the div above it, the _next div that is created by Next.js. I think that was causing some wonkiness with scroll bars. But now that I've got position fixed and that it's on the viewport, I've played around with just getting rid of overflow or setting overflow, and the scroll bars are gone as far as I can see. So I'm just going to get rid of it and think, hey, I don't need it for now until the scroll bars magically reappear. So great. One less thing. Don't need overflow anymore on desktop with fixed position. I'll write it exactly like that. So if I'm later on wrong, it's like, oh, okay, I know why I thought it would work, but it turns out I'm a dummy. So no more with window or default prop linting. Yeah. This is a two-parter actually. This is almost like unrelated partially. Maybe we can do it in two pieces actually. Let's go to the system, processes, render process. Here's where I'm talking about. And in regards to has window, I allow it to be, or do I say here, what do I say? It has to be a Boolean, I say. But that's wrong, actually. Because if you go to where I use it here, oh, okay, right. So I'm doing this wonkiness here where I'm converting to a Boolean. And it's like, I don't know if I like that. Am I doing that anywhere else, in fact? No, just here. Let's just not do that, right? So let's say, hey, we can pass undefined. But then when we're over here, let's say by default it's false. Rather than just relying on the fact that a null check is false, I'm just going to say if it is null or undefined, or if it's undefined, sorry, false. If it's null, it'll be null. But that might still be falsy, so this would probably still work. But false or null, great. And then here's where it gets tricky. Is okay, I do that, now I have a default. But if in my type I define its default, it starts complaining to me about required default props. And I've done some reading on this. And in my opinion, this is like the same stuff as the prop types stuff. I mean, it's not completely, but I don't need this, This works. So I don't care for it to complain about this. So I'm just and if you go in here, I'm gonna jump to the browser here and show you guys the info. Enforce a default props definition for every prop, blah, blah, blah. But if you see here, prop types is mentioned a lot. Prop types, prop types, prop types, prop types. We don't use prop types, we use TypeScript. So, but it does mention TypeScript as well. I just don't feel this rule's correct. So I'm gonna do what I do, which is disable ESLint rules until I read the correct documentation and realize, oh, I was just doing it wrong. So that's gonna happen at some point, but until that day, until that moment, I'm gonna just disable another ESLint rule. So ESLint, and I haven't disabled very many, to be honest. Where should this go? Elemental P, QR, so right around here. So React, require default props, and nah. In the same way that I have disabled prop types, I'm not gonna do require default props because I have my own little solution for that. I wonder if this works. If I do optional there, I guess it doesn't enforce me setting false here, but I'm okay with that, So there we go. So the error is gone. The linting concern is gone. And here it's complaining. Oh, here now it all fits in one line. That's cool. So that Boolean, getting rid of that Boolean even allowed me to kind of clean up the lines slightly. So let's just do that as one commit, but I wanted to get back and chop this up more. So what was that one? That one was just getting rid of default props. So ignore missing default props. Yeah, that's good. And I got the rule there and I've cleaned that up. Don't need Boolean, and I'll just set false there. Good. Okay, so that's nice. So there was a refactor here that I had done where I refactored out this with window. So it's like, this was already so simple, and I prefer having the logic here and not, I just prefer having the logic here and not wasting the lines. So I'm just gonna dump that there. Oh, what happened here? It doesn't, oh, okay, let me delete this function now too. There we go, now Prettier cleaned it up. So that to me is a little simpler. I can't remember, I think I changed it because DeepScan was complaining, but it might have been some implicit, explicit stuff, or I don't remember, but let's just leave it be, I prefer it like this. So let's just say removed with window. There we go. Didn't want it, don't need it for now. I don't think I will need it, to be honest, because I pass a lot less props than I used to. Here's another minor one. So I am going to do a tiny bit of theming tweaks, but only in that I'm going to mess with opaque white. I'm just going to call that text, because if you look where I'm using opaque white, this is just the name for it. Yeah, I'm using it here for the taskbar entry text. Okay, text. And I'm using it in the styled clock text, so text. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. These need alphabetizing here. This needs to be here. And that needs to be over here. There we go. So very simple one. I just did a rename there. I prefer that. I don't know. Opaque white just explains the color, but I want to use that color for text, at least primary text. Maybe at some point I'll call it primary text, and then I'll have a secondary one. For now, I won't. Oh, and that actually brings me to the next one, which was remove unused primary color. I'm going to do these both in one. So rename opaque to text and removed primary. And the reason I'm removing primary is we do not use it. If I do a search here, I wasn't using primary. Maybe at some point I did, but I don't anymore. So let's just not have that. There we go. So there's some very simple cleanups of the theme. And like I said, I'm not going to touch the theme too much more. So essentially we're done the refactors now. And now we get into the tricky stuff. Now we get into, it's not tricky, but I've got a lot of hopes and dreams for what I want to show you guys this stream, because I've actually managed to make quite a few little things. And I want to get into it basically. So I'm just going to open up the commit that's relevant to that. The next thing is the custom double click handler. Now, why are we doing this before we have anywhere useful? Ah, yes. So we don't. So if we look at the item here and I click it once, that opens hello world. So right now I have it on single click. And if I were to go to where is that? That's the file manager, file entry. It's this file entry here. And I've also added on key down. I'm going to get rid of that actually in a few seconds here, because I'm not going to worry about key down for now. We will worry about it, but I want to consolidate the on click, the on activate action, and then we'll worry about doing other things. So let's just get rid of that now. And I want to show you guys, it won't make any difference. But so you see in the app again, I click it, opens, single click. I don't have a way to close it at the moment. I don't have that set up. So now what we do that I wanted to mention is, yes, if we add on double click, React has something called on double click as well. And if we do that, then if I click twice, we get it. Okay, cool. So there's our double click, right? Wrong. Let's go to the browser here and I'll just show you what I'm talking about. So basically that does do double click, but it doesn't do it for mobile. So if I switch over to like a mobile view, and oh, this is a terrible one. There we go. If I click, you see I'm clicking right now. Nothing's happening. There's no taskbar entry appearing. And if I were to go back into the code, where am I? And I switch that to a single click, like so. And we go back to the browser. Then I click it. Then now it works. So click is detected on mobile. Double click, I think, is also detected, but I think it might just be specific, at least in this case, to the DevTools environment. But in the click events, there's I think a field called like detail or something that's supposed to count how many clicks within a certain amount of time. And I noticed that in the DevTools for mobile, it's always showing 1, even if I'm for sure doing double click. So it's not an ideal click detection for my use case. And that is why I want to write my own, essentially. And here we are here. And that gets into where I started looking at what kind of double-click solutions there were. And I'm just going to show you guys one repo because it's very simple and it's actually pretty much what the other guys are doing too. And it's pretty much what I'm going to do. So this one's called use double tap. It's the same idea. And if you kind of read what they talk about in their implementation, they went with the same approach of just doing on click. And I'll go into it here and we'll look at what they did. And this is that's all the code right there. So it's like 54 lines and I don't need a bunch of this top stuff. So basically all it does has a little timer where it's doing use ref to use the timer. And it's making a use callback here of the handler for on click. And if the timer doesn't exist, it creates the timer where it's going to do the click event, assuming you don't click again to do the double tap. There can be a single tap. Sorry, we're not going to do single tap though. We're not going to worry about that for now, I think. Unless I can't remember if I implemented single tap, but I don't think I did. We're just going to have that reset the timer if you don't do 2 clicks. But if you do 2 clicks within a certain amount of time, then is when we want our click event to fire. So that's how we're going to simulate it on the desktop as well. And that's in that piece. Yeah, so let's just start writing it basically. Let me just see how I did it in my commit here just to remind myself. So yeah, so let's go to the use case for it, which is right here. Right now I'm calling it on activate. I actually prefer, I'm going to change that back to on click, and I'm just going to use on click as the generic word for like getting something going, like a double click, a single click, a tap, pressing key down, enter, whatever you want to call it. I'm calling that a click for now. So let's say on click, on click. And now what I want to change here is I want it to be, I need a hook, like something like const use double click, let's say. And in that, I'm going to pass the handler. And if we hover over here, we can see that it's a mouse event handler is the event that's occurring, and that's a React event. So we're going to make one here called the handler. And we're also going to allow passing the timeout. And I'm going to set a default to 500, and I'll show you guys in a minute where I came to that number. And what do I have here? The mouse event handler. Yeah, let's make the type at the same time here. So let's call it the double click type. And it's got the handler, which as I said is the React mouse event handler, and the timeout, which is a number. And we'll assign that to the double click. Wait, am I making any sense here? No, this needs to be defined as like a function here, because this is a function. So those are the function parameters, sorry. It's arguments, that's the word for it. And what does it return? Well, it returns the onClick event, right? Yeah. So it returns a mouse event handler. It takes one and then it kind of tweaks it a bit and then returns it. And we'll assign that like so. And for now, we're just going to do return handler because that's simple enough, and that should allow that to work. And if I go use double click like so, and I think I have to bust this out. No, I guess I wouldn't in this case. I think I might change the way that I was doing this to be like exactly like that, because that's how I have it defined here. What's it complaining about? Oh yeah, because wait a minute, what's it complaining about? Expected 2 arguments but got 1. Timeout was not provided. Oh, I haven't put this as optional. Oops, that's optional. FYI. What is this complaining about? Parsing error. Oh, I should be defining the type like this? Right, because now it's like I said, it's arguments. There we go. So that cleaned that up. Oh yeah, I'm not using timeout. So we got our little fake click handler. I think it'll probably even work. Yeah, so it works because I'm just passing it along right now. But remember, now we want it to be on that delayed timer. So we need to do something like how they have in the code that I was going to take from that use tap one. I'm just going to write out what I have though. So remember, we need a ref for the timer. We need a reference to the timer event that doesn't change. And we're going to use the React use ref for that inside a hook. And we'll just say, yeah, let's just say it's null by default. And we have another event, and it's going to be our version of onClick, the callback one. Nope. And yep, we'll do that. And we're going to use, we know what it's going to be. It's going to be a callback that's expecting to receive that mouse event handler. And yeah, now we can just define it. So we have to define what the callback is we're expecting from the mouse event handler. It's going to be that event coming in. And like I say, it's going to check for the timer. It's a ref, so we need to do .current. And if there was no timer, then we can set the timer to start to be like, oh, okay, one click has occurred. Let's see if another one occurs within a certain amount of time. And if it does, we're going to run that click event because we want to do it on 2 clicks. So we'll say we're going to make a timeout event. And it's going to just do a function here. It's going to go timer. It's going to, what's it doing here? I'm trying to remember what it does. Oh, it just resets the timer basically for now. We could have it that a single click event would occur. So if we do 1 click and then the timer elapses, run the single click thingy you want it to happen and then clear the timer. So it's prepared for another possible double click. We're just going to clear the timer for now. But we could do single click in the future. For our purpose, we don't need it. So if it's not, so if timer does exist, timer.current exists, then we want to clear it because we're done with it. It served its purpose. We don't want it to execute the single click or whatever. So clearing the timer just stops the timer. We also need to reset the timer here, which we'll do there. Make it null. And then we want to execute our handler function. And the handler is not optional, so we don't have to check for it. It's got to be there. And we pass it the event, which we may or may not need. I don't think we need it for my use case right now. And I'm thinking I'm going to run the handler as soon as possible where it makes sense. So I'm actually going to run it here because I need this to run first because I want to go, hey, don't do the single click scenario. Stop that. Now run this. And then while that's running, it's like, okay, reset the current timer for whenever the next click occurs. To me, I think that makes sense. So that's all for that. And then the use callback requires some dependencies. So let's define our dependencies here. What are the things we are using? Well, the handler could change. And I think we're using the timeout. Oh, I haven't added the timeout yet to set timeout. So set timeout needs to specify the timeout, surprise, surprise. And then that should be added as it's complaining, should be added. There we go. And why is it complaining here? Oh, it wants me to clean up the lines. Yeah, that's cleaned up. And now I want to return on click. And I wonder if I could just do return like this and not even, I'll just return the callback directly. Does that make sense? No, that worries me with how use callback works. Let's make it a variable and then return it directly. Yeah, that's clean. So there we go. So we take in a handler that's essentially an on click and then we return it. Now the use ref, we need to clarify what that can be. So it's coming from set timeout, and as you can see, set timeout returns a Node.js timeout. So we'll say it could be a Node.js timeout or it could be null by default. And let's save that. Oh, I haven't imported useRef, I guess. What time? When did I do that? That was a mistake. Here's useRef right there. There we go. And that seems to have stopped the thing from complaining. So now if we try to do a single click, nothing. Single click, nothing. It's following the timeout. Double click. There it is. Boom. So cool. So that's our double click code. Simply put. And you see here on this side of things, now we can reuse do a use double click here within our on click to turn that into a double click event. And it looks a little silly because you'd think, hey, why don't you just use double click there? But as I've told you guys, I think that's implementing the event.detail and it's not working the way that I want. And I also don't have as much control over its timeout. And I want to have control over its timeout. And that's where I'm going to get into mentioning how I came to my timeout. And that's a cool little 12-second story involving the fact that I got the timeout from here. So this is the Microsoft set the initial pop-up reshow duration for tooltips, whatever. But it has a nice little remark here where it says the default delay times are based on the double click time. For the default double click time of 500 milliseconds, the initial auto blah, 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 500 milliseconds. There we go. So assuming this information is correct, I'm going to make the assumption that Windows uses a 500 millisecond double click timer. And let's also show you that this works in that other test case. So when it's like that, so see if I do one click, nothing, double click, there we go. Cool. So now we have a proper double click that we control, and we control the timing on it as well. And maybe in the future I'll find a way to overwrite this a little nicer or something, do something like that. I don't know how to right now, so I'm not going to mess with that. So let's move this out into its own little hook folder, file, hooks, use double click.ts. I gotta have a bit of this Red Bull too. Oh yeah, delicious. Oh. So let's cut out the piece here. There we go. And we have to export it now. Export default. Use double click. And let's save that and see how that looks. Pretty good so far. We need our imports as well. These two, yeah, I was already using those, one of those. So we don't need use ref over here now. Clean that up. And then we got the correct imports here. So we just need to import double click from here. And then we've extracted the hook. Oops, my quick fix is being slow. There we go. Cool. So if I save that, it's fixed. And now we have our double click back. Nice. So now we have a better double click. And I like to do that little step because I think it's kind of cool just that we control the double click rate and stuff, because people maybe using it think, oh, that's just something working. But it's like, no, we made that. So kind of neat. So custom double click handler, done. And for now, we're just using it on the file entry, I believe. Yeah, there's nothing else where I need double clicking at the moment, but maybe in the future. And yeah, that's good, I think. I'm trying to see, I'm just looking at my code to see if there's anything worth changing, but I'm pretty happy with that. So everything's defined as far as I can see. Yep. Custom double click handler. And if I miss something, we'll go back another day, you know? What are we looking at for time? Wow, less than an hour. I'm actually flying through this. I actually probably will get to all this stuff. I guess it's because I'm being a little more liberal with my copy pasting, but we're going over things, so hopefully I'm not going too fast for you guys, and you're getting the full experience. So what is the next ones? Minimize and maximize processes. This is a big one. I don't think it's like literally big as far as commits go. I actually think it's pretty reasonably sized. Let's just see here what I got for code. So let's just start off with the logic of it, actually, just to try to jump around here. And let's go into our utils. We have a processes functions, and we already have for open and close. It's basically the same idea where we take a function like this, where this is the process ID that we want. So it's like, which ID do you want to minimize, maximize? And then the function is also getting a list of the processes. So we already have, so it's like we have the processes, we have the ID, we know what you want to do with it because this function's about doing whatever it's doing, do it. So that's my little reducer style functions. And let's make another one. So let's start with maximize one. I'm going to make one that's like a toggle, and then we're going to use it as generic. I'm just going to call it that, in fact. I'll call it toggle process setting, like so. And it's going to take the process ID, and it's also going to take the setting. So let's say the setting, and let's define what the setting can be. So like that's like toggleable settings. Maybe I should call it toggle settings. I think I can do an enum for that. Maybe we should do an enum, our first enum. Let's try it. Enum toggle settings. I don't even remember how to do an enum. Is it like that? And let's call them maximize and minimize. And does that work? I don't know. What's it complaining about? Yeah, defined but never used. Okay, it's so far it hasn't completely exploded on me yet, but I don't trust it here. So what do we want to select here? We need to get the process ID of we need to work with this process to know what it currently is, I think. Is that true? Yeah. We need the process, I think, and then we need, and this will just be the other processes. And I'm just looking at my notes here for it. We return the processes. Yeah, so we need some logic here that says, well, I mean, first off, we have to check the process exists. That's what I've done in these other two cases. So you pass the process ID, and then in the current processes, I try to get the process based on the process ID. So I say, did the process exist? Okay. If it did, then I want you to do this. Otherwise, do that. So if it existed, we're gonna make a new processes. Otherwise, just return the other processes because that's all the processes because this never returned anything. But if it does, then we need to kind of redo our process a little bit here. So we're gonna remake the process at that ID, and we're gonna dump in the process stuff that already existed, but then we're gonna override that one setting, whatever the toggleable setting is. And all we're gonna do is essentially flip it. So we're gonna have to get that setting again and flip it. So it's like, that's the process setting, the reverse of it. So this toggle setting assumes these are gonna be Booleans, I'm guessing. I wonder if I should be like toggle process Boolean. Let's call it setting for now because we've specified here that they're Boolean settings. Well, we haven't very informal what I've done with this, but let's just say it's okay for now. And that looks okay, I think. So this returns that process. We also still need to return the other processes too. So like that, dot, 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 bring those two. And if I save that, okay, it was happy with a good chunk of that. What's the problem here? Element explicitly has an any type because expression of toggle settings can't be used to index. Okay, I was afraid of that. So let's do what I was doing before, which is actually just having a string here and actually just saying, you know what it can be maximize or it can be minimize. There we go. And how does that handle? Element implicitly, Element implicitly has an any type because expression of type maximize or minimize can't be used. Oh, now it's specific with process. Was it like that before? Let me go back. Okay, before we listen to this complaint too much more, let's fix process because process currently doesn't have minimize and maximize. So we need to add those, obviously. So let's go into that and do that. Now, where did I put the process? Now it's in the process directory, right? The type for it. Here it is. So let's just add maximize as a Boolean and minimize as a Boolean. And these are optional. You don't need to specify these by default. Yeah, we're not going to put these in here. And we're also going to have to put these in the initial content, I think. Or no, do we? Let me check here. Oh yeah, for the state. Or is that for the functions? Well, we don't have functions for it yet, so let's just see how this works. So I got that. So it's still complaining about this. Why? Toggle setting.maximize. Oh yeah, this is me not using enum correctly. Let's just use my old method for now because I haven't figured out how to do that correctly. Haven't thought about it enough. Minimum. Does that stop the complaining? Max. Oh, what am I doing? Maximum and minimum. Maximize and minimize. Is that what I wrote there? No, I wrote those correctly. I just started thinking maximum and minimum. Okay. Is that's not what I had for the type, is it? No, I had maximize, minimize, so cool. So it works as a string. Let's not worry about the enum of it right now, and let's just stick with this. So this essentially gives us like a toggle function, if we look at it. So yeah, you say, for this process ID, I want to change this setting. It can either be max or min currently. We can add more of these in the future. And it's going to rebuild the process structure, processes based on that. So yeah, it's going to take the process ID. Okay, cool. I like that part. Now let's make the functions that use this toggle function. We'll use this short one here because it's nice and short. And we're just going to call this one maximize process. And it's going to get in the process ID and the processes. I think we can just say processes. We don't have to mess around with it. Processes, because we're just going to pass this along. This can be lowercase. Processes. And what do I want to do with it? I want to pass it to this toggle function. If I save, will this clean this up? Yeah, okay, nice. So maximize process, you give me the ID, we get the processes, and the toggle function is going to, so it's like, give me the process ID, I'm going to do maximize to it, and I'm going to pass along the processes. There we go, cool. So just like that, we have a maximize function, and now we have a minimize function. If I do minimize, there we go. So we're able to reuse this logic and not have to redo that, you know? So we can use this for toggling whatever else. We'll probably think of some other stuff to toggle in the not too distant future. So now that we have these, we need to add these to the process context so that they can be used. And that is right here. So in the same way that we added the open and close functions by using their open and close, we're going to do something similar with the minimize and maximize. So let's just write that out, LMNOP. I'll do this alphabetically in a second. Maximize. Yeah, I guess open should be at the bottom if we're doing these alphabetical. So maximize, use callback, get the ID, set processes, to maximize processes. So that's pretty simple. And it's exactly the same for minimize. Minimize process. And then I import these in, add that, add this, press save to do the formatting. And then I have to pass these along into the context so that they can be accessed later on. There we go. So we have those two functions in, and now we have to also add those into the definition, which is now right here in the same file and not somewhere else. So we can just do it right here. So maximize takes, just like this one, takes the ID and returns void. And same with minimize. Minimize. So that looks slightly repetitive, but that gets the message across. So there we go. So we've added maximize, minimize. And now we need to handle the initial state, which we just need to add those two pieces or else it's going to complain. So it's the same thing here, undefined, 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 minimize, maximize. Oops, that's backwards. Darn it. There we go. So I think we've added the ability to do minimize now and maximize in the same way that we have, oh, I don't like that spacing. Why did I have that there? Yeah, in the same way that we have open, it's pretty much exactly the same. We just do some stuff with the processes array or object and tweak something in it. So that's all we've done here. And I haven't tested it, but I'm going to commit what I have because I've got a good feeling about it. And my next commit's going to be to test it so I can do fixes there. But you've seen it didn't add too much. Basically just added some definitions for this minimize, maximize functions. And all they do, like I say, is just change the object. So added min and max process functions. And yeah, process functions. And state, I guess. They have a state now. It's a Boolean. So yeah, commit that. I'm going to push these 11 commits I have in case my computer explodes and I lose them. That would suck. Yeah, and that was one piece. That was the maximize, minimize process part 1. Part 2 is actually doing something with the minimize functionality and testing it out. And we'll get to the maximize functionality once we have the window kind of cleaned up very shortly. So where can we use minimize? So if we have a double click, we got our window. So we don't have the buttons here yet, but what we can do is if you see the taskbar entry here, in Windows, when you click that, it actually does minimize and it does restore, which is like unminimize essentially. So we're gonna add that feature to this clicking here of the taskbar entry, the ability to minimize. Now there is another aspect involving focus. Like if that window is out of focus when you click it, it doesn't do minimize. It focuses it. Then if you click again, it minimizes. But we don't really have enough of focus right now to worry about that. When we can worry about that, then we'll have focus, you know? And that'll probably be another toggle element, like is focused. So there's another use for our little toggler that we made. But for now, let's implement this taskbar entry clicking. So if we go to the taskbar entry, right now it's not doing too much. We're gonna have to add an on-click event and we're gonna have a button in between this, kind of like we have for the file entry. If you see how it's got a figure and it's got styled, but it has this button here to do the double clicking, we're gonna do exactly the same thing and just put that in the middle here. And it's not going to have the same onClick. It's not going to be a double click. I probably will call the onClick event onClick still, but we're going to have to define it. So we're going to have to turn this into a function here, into this kind of function that you can write stuff inside and not just return JSX. And let's make that onClick event. It's going to be using callback probably again, because I like to use that. Let's just really mock it up here. There we go. And let's import minimize too. So we go use processes, right? Because now we've added a minimize function to the processes context. So we say use processes, and here we can just say, if we say M, it already knows about those functions. That's a cool part of all this stuff we got set up. So minimize is the function we care about. And we want it so that when you click it, it basically just runs minimize on, well, we need the ID. So we're gonna have to get the ID from somewhere. And if ID or minimize changes, we're gonna have to update our use callback. So where are we gonna get ID from? It's probably gonna be passed in here into the taskbar entry. So that cleans that up, but then we need to fix this piece. And otherwise, I'm pretty happy with that. That looks good. So we have to say ID equals string here now because we're passing the ID. And we have to import button because we're gonna use a button. Oh, it's not importing properly. Let's just take it from here. I think it goes here. Yeah. Okay. So we fixed that, and now we have to deal with the fact that we're not passing ID currently to taskbar entry. So I'll go into taskbar entries, and we'll just pass the ID right here, like so. And now if we refresh the page here, so I click it twice to open it, and now if I click here, well, I have no idea if minimize worked because I don't have an effect for minimize. So maybe minimize toggled there. I don't know. We need a little bit more, I think, to know that something's actually happened. So the next thing I want to add, the window needs to know about the minimized state, I believe. Which, where would it get that from? How would it know about that, guys? The processes list has whether it's minimized or not because that Boolean's been toggled. So we need access to the processes again, one by one. So so that we can access it on a per ID basis. So let's go into the, is it the window? Yeah, I mean the window needs to know, hey, am I minimized or not? So we're in window here. And we're going to have to do the use processes again. So let's turn this into that kind of function that we need. There we go. And we're going to again do use processes because we need the processes. But I think what we need, we don't have yet. Like if you remember before, we used to export the entire processes array. Now we just do map processes. But I don't want a function that's going to let me go through all of them. I just want one. So if I had the object, I could just be like, there's the object, and now I want to destruct it, and I want exactly my ID. And then from there, I know that I want the minimized Boolean, you know? So I need to get processes out of the process context again. So let's go back to our process context, which is in the hooks, use process context state. And I'm just going to add process here, LMNOP, so it's at the end. Should be really easy. I already have it right here. So I just need to add it to my definition, I guess, and I need to add it here, that this is the processes that I'm returning. And wait, is that it? Oh, I need to have it in my initial state, I think now too. Where's my initial state? Here it is. Yeah. Processes, which is just going to be empty array, empty object, sorry. So there we go. So I've just added the ability to get processes. So now you see here, it's not complaining as much. Now if I hover over here, it might know what this is now. It should at some point say processes. It's just saying loading. Let me close the window and open it again. Close, open. Now if I hover over here, yeah. So it knows it's processes. This is right, but now I need ID to be here also. So now I need it on the window. So let's do the same thing and say ID here. And now here I've been using a React functional component. I'm going to continue to use that, but I'm going to make a thing where I'm going to say like the window can accept process component props. And the reason I'm going to do that is if you go into the processes, the render processes here, this is where we use window. And in some scenarios, such as the WebAmp, Winamp app that I want to make, I don't want to wrap that in a window, but I still need to pass the WebAmp, Winamp app to know about the ID so that it can do stuff with the process, like its own version of minimize and maximize and close. So for that reason, I need to pass ID to the window sometimes, but sometimes I need to pass it to the component. So I'd like both the component and the window to get the same kind of props that are essentially the props that are needed to do stuff with the processes. So then on that note, I need to define that somewhere. I think here might be a decent place for it. Let's try that. Does it make sense here? I think so. Yeah, I think so. Elemental P, QR. So let's do it here. Type, let's call it the process component props, because the window's a component and the component's a component. So these are component props and they're relevant to the process. It's not window specific, it's not component specific, it's process specific. And the only one I care about is the ID. That's probably all we're ever gonna need, honestly. And I'm probably gonna have to export this because I'm gonna need this in the window and I'm gonna need it possibly in components in the future if I wanna use ID, right? If I wanna use ID from a component, which was the app. This component is referring to the app. I almost wonder if I should call it app or process. That's for another day, So we got this here, and I'm gonna now pass ID everywhere. ID, because we have to pass it into window, and like I say, we need it here, and we need it here. Now we don't actually even have it here, so we also need to get it here as well. Now this feels like a prop drilling a little bit, but I don't think so in this specific case because this is very specific to the ID. So I don't think you could use a hook to get this because, or like context. I don't think you could do context because it's very specific at the ID level, I think. I'll think about it later if I could use context, but I don't think I could. So let's say we need the ID and it needs to be a string. That cleaned up that little piece there. But now we need to use this process components here, and we're gonna say that the window can accept those process component props. And now we need to import it. And it's a type. What's it now? It's sort order. Oh, okay. Why did it do that? Oh, it imported this weird. That's wrong. Maybe because I didn't save this? I don't know. It imported this weird anyways. This should be like, not like that. It was like components slash system slash processes slash render process component props. I think that's a reasonable place for them. There we go. Now it's okay with that. So cool. So we got that coming in now. That's being defined there. We're going to need this at some other point. We're going to need that right away, actually, in that we're going to have to now say that the component can be one of those types of components. So where is that? That's in the process directory, I believe. I'm going to do a global search as soon as I find the process directory, which is right here. I want to do a search for this definition. Yeah, it's only in 2 places, but I need to add, like I said, I need to add that it's one of these new types I've made. This. So in regards to that, it's going to be a process component prop type. Oh, nice. Here that makes sense why it's there. And then one other place I need it is here, and I'll have to import it in there. Oh, this time it imported fine. So nice. There we go. Finish my Red Bull. I'm gonna have a little water as well, so I don't get too hoarse on you guys. Oh man, I need to cut the old mustache too. Okay, cool. So now I'm saying that the components that come from processes and the window can both take process component props. Cool. What does that get us? That gets us the fact that I can pass the ID to it. And the window needs the ID so that it can get the minimized state. And then with the minimized state, we can pass that to the styled window as a property. And we can say that when it's minimized, it just disappears, basically. So now we need to set that in the styled window as well, which we'll do in just a second here. But first, what I wanted to do was to make sure that we haven't completely gone off the rails here. So that part looks good. The initial part, that looks good too. I'm just looking for red here. I'm just looking for errors, looking for complaints. Looks like we're on the right track. So let's get to that styled window and let's add minimize. Now that we've done all that rigmarole to get the ID where we need it. Now that we've used it to get minimized state of the ID, now we need it here. So display, and I'm just gonna copy this piece here. And instead of the theme attribute property, it's the minimized property, minimized. There we go. And what'll happen if it's true, then we're gonna say don't show it. Otherwise, inherit, initial, block, I don't know. I think block for now. That's probably the default. So save that. Okay, so it's complaining right now about minimized because I haven't added that property. So now we can do another type here called type styled window props. And the prop is going to be the minimized Boolean. And then we just have to use it here, I believe, like that. There we go, cool. And then now it should have fixed the complaint here as well. Doesn't seem to have though. Why is it complaining? Oh, is it because this can be undefined? Oh, I spelt minimized wrong somewhere. Oh, here I spelt it wrong. Oh man, everywhere I spelt it wrong. Here I spelt it right. Fix, fix, fix. Did that fix it? Oh man, we're minimized. Let's do a Google search. This is why I hate having to try to type it when I'm not sure. Okay, so somewhere along the line I've broken it in a few places. I think on the process itself it's probably spelled wrong. Let's look at the changed files and just kind of go through them. So that's correctly spelled. Here I'm just getting that ID that I was talking to you guys about that I need. Here I'm passing the ID along from the taskbar entries point of view. Minimize, that part's correct. That's the singular for it, the action. Here I was just passing processes so we can get access to that state. Minimized, yeah, here that's correct still. That's good too. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Here's my mistake. So I've named it the singular here as well instead of the past tense. So for the process, it shouldn't be maximized, minimized. That's like the action. I want, is it maximized? Is it minimized? Duh. Dustin, you forgot your D. So I've added those there. I'm probably gonna have to add that in the toggle function that I also messed up. What was that here? Yeah, here it's minimized, maximized, minimized, maximized. Yeah, there we go. That should clean that up and it should stop complaining. Cool. So that's how I actually wanted that. So let's look at what I've done here now. So now why is this complaining still? What's the new issue? The new issue on the block. Oh, because it could be undefined, it's saying. It's true. What if I say that that's okay, right? Let's just, where is the type? Here it is, styled window. Let's say minimized can be undefined. That'll work in this scenario. And I'll even do the same thing, equals false, and give it a default. I should do that whenever I'm doing optional. It's like, hey, Dustin, give it a default. Did that stop the complaints? I think that stopped all the complaints probably. There we go, yeah. So let's see if that worked. Let's go and, oh man, why did I lose my file icon? What have I done now? Let's refresh the page here. Have I broken it? Okay, it's back. Magic. So I double clicked, open the window. Oh, nice, that's exactly what I wanted to happen. Cannot read property minimized of undefined. Fair, fair. So let's find, I've changed the word so many times that I've confused myself. Which one is it complaining about though? It's complaining about the window. Okay, but it can be undefined. That's okay. Why is it complaining about that? Oh, because the ID is undefined? Am I passing ID correctly? Maybe I'm not. I'm passing it to window. Cannot read property minimized of undefined. I think it's saying that this ID wasn't found, but why would that happen? That would be really weird that it would be passing that. Let's take a peek at my code and see what I did in the past. Literally identical to that, so I think I need to see what I've overlooked on. Let's go back to the taskbar entry. So we got minimize there. Minimize function. I'm a little confused here, but this is fun. So it happened on open, but why is open doing stuff to the window? That makes sense, I guess. So, oh wait, was ID undefined? If ID is undefined, then I'm not passing it properly for some reason. Let's go into the render process. Okay, oh, I'm not passing it to render process yet. I bet if I run ESLint right now, there's probably an error that I'm just not seeing because I didn't open the right file. That can be tricky when you just don't have the right file open, but you broke something. Okay, ESLint's actually fine. I bet npm run build will fail. It'll be like, hey, render process is not being passed an ID. I haven't peeked yet. I could be wrong, but there we go. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So sometimes it'll run, but it's broken. So here we go. Now it's very obvious. So yeah, I need to pass ID here. And this is the last little bit of prop drilling. There we go. So now if I refresh the page, double click, that opens the window. Now if I click the taskbar, it disappeared. I click it again, it's back. Nice. So now we have our minimize function, and we've got it working in the taskbar example there. Let's just take another little double check peek of what I did here and make sure I didn't mess anything up too bad. So yeah, in the window, we've just added the ability to get processes, pass the ID, and then figure out the minimize state. Pass that onto our styled window, which now has its own props and will properly say none if that's passed as false. In our process loader, we're passing the ID down to render process, and then we're passing it all the way to window, which is where we actually do something with it. We're also passing it to component for in the future when we need apps to possibly have ID. We need to think of that case. And it could make the argument that this scenario wouldn't exist then, so like that would always be like that, right? But maybe not, you know? Maybe you have a windowed component that you want to have access, that you want to know what its process ID is. I haven't figured out the use case for it yet, but for sure in this scenario with like the web amp thing, it'll be necessary. So that's cool. I guess it wouldn't be necessary because in a web amp scenario, it knows its own process name. Maybe not. I have no problem with this, so let's just leave that. Entries, we have to pass ID down. So we can do the minimize function here. We have process we had to add there. We had to, I already explained that one. We had to add it here as well, just for the initial state. We've added the types, cool. So let's do an npm run build and make sure I haven't broke everything. And in the meantime, let's craft our little commit message here. What was it here? I was at the minimize and maximize processes. Well, I basically got the minimize via taskbar entry, minimize window from taskbar entry. So that part we've got. The window can now maximize, and the taskbar entry is the one that can do it. Throw that out there. Another one done. Oh, so where are we now with this? We've added so much and it looks the same, right? What are we at? We're at 1 hour and 20 minutes. And the pieces that we still have left. So maximize, I'll show you guys shortly. I think it's time for us to get a title bar if we're going to be doing maximize. Yeah. And maybe double click title bar maximizes. That's another one. I forgot to add that last time, but when you double click the taskbar or the title bar of a window in Windows, typically it maximizes the window. So that's something we're gonna have to emulate. But yeah, let's just get into the title bar because I've got it pretty much figured out. Oh, what happened to our visuals here? What happened here? It's because of the build? I think the build broke my webpack here. Let's kill this and start it over again. Or my dev environment. Come on. Yes, you're okay. All right, cool. So let's get back to it. So we open our window. So our window is pretty basic right now. Let's go to our window and let's add our first little piece of the puzzle, which is the title bar. Now, where's the title bar? It's above the content. What's the content? It's the children in this case. So let's say title bar, and we know we're gonna have to pass that ID. So let's just throw an ID in there. We have the ID now, so it's nice that we have it from this case. Save that, let Prettier clean it up. And right away it's gonna complain we don't have a title bar. We gotta make one. So at this point, I think it's time to make an organized folder in system here. Right now we just have window kind of sitting out there. Let's put it in its own folder called window. Move it over here to window. Yeah, move. And we'll make the title bar inside of this, titlebar.tsx. And I'm gonna take the window and I'm gonna switch it to be called index, because I think I did that for taskbar too. Yeah, index. It basically lets you load from the folder and say the window folder is where I want to load, and then it knows index is the one to look at. So it's a little trick of the trade. So what more do we need from window? I'm just going to double check. I think we're pretty good for window. We need to import title bar in once we've got it here. Let's do the boilerplate. Title bar. Like I said, it's going to take the ID in. Is this a component? What is this? Yeah, it's a component, so I actually need to do it like that. And the title bar is going to need to be a... I don't think it needs to be a function. I think it can just be pure JSX, actually, if we do this right. Export. Export default title bar. There we go. That should, if I save that, that should be enough to import it here. And then we're pretty much, no, it's not enough to import it. I know what it is, so let's just import it ourselves. Import title bar from components/system/window/title bar. Nice. And we'll organize that. Okay, so I'm gonna close the window for now. I think we're done with that. We got this in place. Let's move on to what the title bar needs to have. So the title bar is going to be a header, I'm thinking. That's my, oops, not head, a header component. That's an HTML5 semantic element. And I think it makes sense that it's a header, it's a title bar. Feels like a perfect fit for me. And one thing headers have is they'll have their H1. And the H1 is going to be, in this case, the icon and the title. And in the cases where I've had icon title in the past, I've been using figures. So I'm going to do the same thing there. I'm going to use a figure, and I'm going to have the image is going to be for the icon image, and the title for it here. That's how I've been doing my images. And the figure needs to have a fig caption, which will also be the title. So that's our little header piece there. So where are we going to get icon and title from? We're going to get those from the process, which we can extract from the ID now. And in this case, I'm going to use the process context provider, process provider here. And we'll work with the function that it gives us to get the processes. And from there, we're going to use our ID to get the pieces we need out of it. Oh, is this right? This looks gibberishy. There we go. I think that is confusing to even me. This should be like that. This gets deep into destructing here, but let's assume that I'm getting the processes, I'm referencing the ID, and now I want to get the pieces that I need, which are the icon and the title. And we'll put this stuff in here, make the function there. Oh, I want to return a JSX function. There we go, let's save that. Okay, so it's actually reasonably happy with that. What did it have a problem here? So it doesn't know what that is, so I've obviously done this wrong somehow. But how? Doesn't seem like I have, but oh, not a provider. I need a consumer, guys. Which one of you told me provider? Answer nobody. There we go, consumer. Is it still complaining? Cannot find name ID. Oh wait, but it knows processes is processes. So what's wrong with this logically then? Nothing. Let's close this and open it again. The classic thing that fixes it. Nope. Can't find ID. Oh, okay, well ID is right here. Let's define the title bar props. Get that out of the way. The ID is a string. Oh yeah, this is messy what I've done here. This is just dead wrong. I can't do that. That needs to be like that. That's probably why I was complaining. And then this needs to be like that. Yeah, come on, Dustin, think. There we go, now it's not complaining about ID. What's it complaining about now? Missing return type. Yeah, okay, well it's gonna return a JSX element. You know that, guys. So there's the basics of our title bar in which we have our title. We were able to get the icon and the title. Now we need to do the nav part of it, the buttons. And for that we're gonna use a nav. Spoiler from what I said, nav. So that's another semantic element that we're gonna use. And we're gonna use our buttons that we've made. Remember our button that we made? And I'm just gonna, we're gonna set titles on them so that when you hover over it, it's gonna say the information. I don't know if Windows does that. If I hover over minimize, it at no point tells me that it's minimize. Maybe I shouldn't do titles then. From an accessibility point of view, it's easier though. Let's do it. No. Let's not do title for now. Let's just focus on what clicking the button does. So when you click the button, and this will be single click, so we can use on click here and we don't have to use our double click trick. So we're just gonna say on click, I want you to run minimize. Now actually looking at this here, this is an opportunity to use the use callback, because otherwise whenever this title bar is re-rendered, it's gonna remake all these functions. And that is a waste of resources. So let's do that instead. Let's refactor this. Just get rid of that. Let's just make a new one here. And instead of doing the process consumer, I'm just gonna go back to the use processes hook, because I actually like that one too. And it gets us the same thing. It gets us here. There we go. And then return. In some ways this is, it's not, I don't know if this is cleaner, I would argue, but it allows us to use the use callback stuff in a nicer way. So we'll get rid of that. And now I can go and make a minimize function here. Oh, wait a minute. Do I want to do that? No, because I could do on minimize. Yeah, let's call it that. On minimize. And it's like on click of an on minimize. I'm not 100% sure I like that, but like I said, it allows me to do the use callbacks here and memeize these functions. So the minimize function, we need to extract that from here as well. Minimize. So the minimize function will do minimize. Surprise, surprise. And its dependencies will be the ID and the minimize function itself, which probably won't change. And let's just copy this exact same thing for maximize as well and close. And I'm not going to do these three alphabetically because I'm going to do them in the order in which they happen on the Windows title bar for now. Or does that make any sense? I think it does. I'm going to do it that way until someone tells me otherwise. So we need close. I think we have that function already, and we have maximize. So we have all these functions, luckily, which finally makes it possible for us to make this window in such a cool, simple way. So there's our three callback functions. Here's our icon and title. We have everything we need now. So now I can just do on minimize in this case. Oh, there we go. And this button needs to have the minimize icon. Now for the minimize, the maximize, and the close icons, I'm going to tell you guys, I've already found the SVGs and I'm just going to paste them in. So you don't need to see me trying to make an SVG. That's just going to take forever and it's irrelevant, you know. As to how I got it, I think I just found it on the internet somewhere. Like I searched around and looked at a bunch of different examples until I found one that fit perfectly and also had a minimal amount of actual code to make the SVG work. So I'm just gonna go ahead and call this the minimize icon. Actually, did I do that for the Windows icon? Did I call it Windows icon? Oh, I did, Windows icon, cool. I wanna have the word icon at the end of these because it's a little clearer. So let's copy this and just use this again. For that one and for that one. That'll be maximize, that'll be close. And we need to use the same wording here. maximize and close, like so. And that's the basics of that little piece right there. So you see the logic of it simple enough. There's the text header. There's the nav element. That's essentially all the title bar is. Now I'm going to take the header and turn it into a styled component because eventually we're going to be styling this thing. So we'll call it the styled title bar. And it's a styled component. So I go styled.header and put the content in there. Okay, let's put that where it needs to go. Styles, components. Oh, okay, so I need to redo the folder structure here as well. In system, I make a folder called window, and I'm going to drag the styled window in there. There we go. And this is also where I'm going to put the styled title bar. Oh, lowercase b, I think. Yeah, let's lowercase b. .ts. I'll fix that here to be lowercase b as well. And we'll just replace header with that. And we'll take it in here and put it there. And I'm gonna take styled from this import here just to save myself a, that's even faster than the quick fix. Export default styled title bar. So I'm gonna keep it extremely basic right now. It's just saying, hey, it's a header, you know. I'm not gonna do any of the styling yet. And depending on how I feel by the end of the stream, we might just leave the styling to one big styling episode, which could be fun. So I didn't need the process consumer in the end. We need the styled title bar. Let's import that in. Oh man, I didn't find it. Let's do it manually. From styles / components / oops, system window styled title bar. Oh, that's a mouthful. So there's our title bar. Oh, we need to import button too. I didn't have button. Oh man, everything is not importing right now. Import button from styles / common / button. There we go. What next? The icons, of course. Other than the icons, it stopped complaining, so that's nice. So window, we're done with for now. Get rid of that. This we're done with. What did I change on those? I forgot what I changed. I didn't change nothing. I don't know why I thought I changed something. Oh, because things moved, I think. Because I moved where window was. Did I not save that then? Components, system, window. Oh yeah, that still works actually in the window case. Because remember, now I have index.tsx, and that you can just treat it like that in this case. So window.tsx and window / index.tsx are essentially equivalent. So it's like it changed the files, but it didn't change them in this case. So the only thing that did change was making the title bar and making the styled title bar. And now let's bring in those icons that I was telling you guys about. I'm just going to copy them in. Now we don't need this export anymore because we're going to have 3 more. And there they are right there. So as you can see, they're pretty anticlimactic. Minimize, maximize, and close. And it's just SVG. You can see the minimize and maximize are very simple. It's basically just a box. This is just a line. And this X is simple enough to explain as well, it looks like, with just some coordinates. So we'll save that, and then we're going to have to import those in here. Ugh. I don't know why it keeps trying to add React. It's not doing clever imports. What if I close the title bar and open it again? Close and open. Nope. Okay, so we're just going to import that. Import this icon from the components / system / icons, right? That's where it was from. And we'll sort that, and then we're going to have to put these other 2 in here as well. Maximize and close. And there we go. So now we got all of that stuff. So let's try a refresh on the page here and see what's still broken. Something's still broken. Components, system, window. Okay, let's see what it's talking about here. Components, system, window, index. I think something's still referencing the wrong thing, I guess. Let's try to close the console again. Sometimes you just kill it and then you bring it back to life and then it's fine. And when I say sometimes, I mean most of the time. There we go, it's back. So what did we do? So if we open the window, cool, we have our title bar, which is the icon and the text, and we have our we have our buttons, which are somewhere. Where are buttons? So they're basically invisible, but they are there. You have to take my word for it, they're there. I'm just gonna try to quickly style them to make them visible for you guys. What if I say color red? No, background color red. Where are these things? Z index? Okay, well I don't know where the buttons are, but that's part of me adding styling that I'm gonna do. But the actual HTML, I'm gonna show you guys. Jump to the browser, localhost, open a window, inspect the window, not in that view. And as you can see here, let's actually throw this on the left side. That's a nice little view sometimes. So you can see from the window here, we got our header, we got our H1 with the icon and the title, and we have our nav elements that have our 3 buttons, and they have their SVGs inside them. And I'd like to be able to click the close one to show you guys close. So how can I just don't know visibly where that is. That's not, I think maybe it's the nav that's not showing. Huh. Oh, okay. And this one here, background color, let's say pink. Well, it's being tricky with trying to figure out where the button is. I don't know where it is. Oh, maybe it has no height or width. Height is say 20 pixels, and the width is 20 pixels. Oh, there we go. So I haven't set height and width yet. That's gonna happen in the styling part. But just as a test here, there's our close button. It's an X. It doesn't look like the right X, but when the size is right, it is. Let's see if clicking it closes it. Click. It worked. Cool. So I'm going to consider that valid for all the other stuff that we didn't test. And I'm going to start looking at a reviewing of what we have changed. So we've added those icons, which was cool. I didn't show you guys where I got the text from, but other than that, pretty simple. The icons got added. I've moved window, and I've added the title bar piece. Was that already added? I've moved window anyways. I don't think I changed anything else. Oh, I probably did add the title bar piece because this is the title bar one. Right, yeah. Then I added the title bar itself, which has a lot of different stuff going on. But pretty simple, really. You get the process stuff. You make your callbacks that you have for your min, max, and such. And then I wonder if we can do this. Does it frown upon doing that? Yeah, it doesn't like that. Okay, fine. And then we have our very simple nav, in which we have the same figure that we use. This I'll probably make into something generic at some point too, possibly, but it's already pretty generic. And that's it. That's all we have for that. We haven't styled it at all. The window's not styled any more than it was before. But that's it. We got a title bar. We got a pretty cool title bar that... I mean, it's not cool in that it's not styled, but once we get to the styling part, then it's gonna be like nice. So this is a functional thing right now. Double click title bar maximizes. I forgot about that. So I wanted to do that quick because that's just a simple one. It's on maximize. And what is the title bar? I guess it's the header itself, or I think I would only want it to happen on the H1 aspect. Because the H1 is like the text and everything else that's not the buttons, basically, I think. Or it's like I'd want it to happen on the entire title bar, but not the nav. Let's for now just have it happen on the figure. On the H1, sorry. That we're going to treat that like maximize. Let's see how that works. On click. I think it's going to complain about me treating an H1 like that. Yeah, it's not happy about that. Let's just save that as a test and see. Well, we won't even know. If I click, I don't have a thing for what happens when maximize is clicked. So let's not worry about that either. Okay, so don't worry about that. But in the near future, we're going to have that. That's when we get into adding more behaviors. We're going to have that behavior. I don't even completely have it figured out as to double clicking the title bar. Where in Windows does it do exactly what, you know? I want to get that locked down. So let's not make that note. We're at an hour 44. I definitely want to get into the use resize and the use dragging. But those are some serious commits. That's where it gets chunky. We're not going to get into styling today, I don't think. But that's okay. So we've done the title bar. Let's commit what we got. Created title bar component. I haven't styled it. I never claimed that I styled it, guys. Yeah, so let's get into resizing because that's a big deal. And that's like a big part of what windows do. What a window does is having the ability to resize. And that's where I've been leveraging this really cool library called React R&D. It's got 2.1 stars, 2.1 thousand. That's a lot for a resize library. It's got a nice little README, so that makes it official. And as you can see, you can do dragging with it and you can do resizing. So that's cool. That's exactly what I need. That's what a window is, basically. I mean, they're using it here as like some kind of to-do item or something, but we got bigger plans for it. And if you look at the API for it, I've always found in the time that I've been using it to be very clean the way it is. Like, you just set the size here, you can set position here, what to do on this, what to do in that situation, and it's all right here laid out in front of you. So on that note, I think we should install this, you know? Let's install this and begin. Let us begin. So I want to install the React R&D like so. You don't need that -s, but they've given it to us. And I'm also going to do the save dev version where I get the types, because you have to check sometimes. Sometimes they have type definitions. In this case, they do. And it's good to get those when you can. They're nice to have, little nice to haves. So I'm definitely going to have to look at my commit to remember what the heck did I do with this one, because resizing is tricky. So where is it going to happen? It's going to happen on the window. So let's get that window open. And let's get right to using it. So as you guys saw from the browser, it's using this like R&D syntax. So let's just take that just to start with. Put that here, and then take our styled window and put that inside it. And let's not even have any defaults or nothing. Let's just see if that works. We need to import this, so it's not going to work. Oh man, these imports are just totally busted right now. We'll import it ourselves once again. Done, just like that. Quick fix that. So there's our R&D. So if I save that, cool. So that still works, and the window opens. So the window opens. Oh wow, do I already have dragging? Oh, that was pretty quick. So I already have dragging. Oh man, do I already have resizing? I don't seem to already have resizing. Maybe that's something that's not enabled by default, or the cursor is just not making it clear to me. But there's a cool start. We already have dragging by doing practically nothing. Now let's get to how we're going to do resizing, because that gets tricky. So if we look here, if we go to the code here and we just type the word resize and just kind of see, well, what stuff do they got for resize? So on resize stop, we're going to need that. We're going to need on resize stop so that when you stop resizing, we save the new size. So we'll put that here as that's an important one. For now, it's not doing anything. What is the next thing we need? Resize. On resize, no, we don't need to do anything on it. Does the plugin, this library itself will do the resizing as you're resizing. But when you stop a resize, I want to save the new size to the process, and we need that information for other things. So we're going to handle that ourselves. Resize grid, no, that's not relevant to us. Resize handle styles. So this is an interesting one. We're going to get to this one in a second, because I don't think I'm happy with the default styles. But first, let's figure out how to enable resizing. Here we go. Enable resizing. That's an option. So I think by default it must be off. So if we go in here and do enable resizing equals true. And actually, let's go one better, because we actually know when do we want to allow resizing? When it's not maximized. If it's maximized, leave it at full. Otherwise, we allow resizing. I mean, if it's minimized, you don't want to resize either, but if it's minimized, you can't see it, so you're not going to be resizing it. So let's just say maximized, Enable resizing if it's not maximized. Okay, so let's see how that gets us. So now when we drag here, do we have resizing? No. We still don't seem to have resizing. I don't know what the deal is with that. Is it more complex than that? Let me set it to true. Let me just say true. Enable resizing true. And let me refresh the page because sometimes that does it. So we got our window. So my Boolean was correct, I think. I'm going to keep that Boolean of not maximized. But there must be more that I need to do to get resize to work the way that I'm expecting it to. So let's dig a little deeper. What did I do in the code to make it work? Very little. I mean, you have to define size. Maybe that's it. Maybe without a defined size, it's just using... I don't know what it's using. I think it's basing it on the header or something. I'm not sure. Or just whatever content's in there. Let's set a size anyways. I mean, we can double check. Let's go into the browser here and just see. I think size is one of like the first things you set. It's like the first example. Yeah, size is literally the first thing that you set. So let's assume we need size before resize works properly. And for now, we're just going to set a default. You see here how it's using state. So actually we will set a state. And I'm going to turn this into a hook in the very near future. But for now, let's use a state. And it's going to be a shared state where it's going to be one variable, height and width. And we're going to call it, what did I ended up calling it last time? I don't even know. I think like call it set size, I guess. Set size. Use state, and it's going to be something called a size. And its default is going to be whatever the default size is. So let's specify that too. So let's say default window size equals the height of, say, 200 pixels, let's say. Is this the way to do this? Should I do the number 200? What was the example? Let's go back to the example again. Here they've just used straight up numbers without the pixel, the word, the px, not a string. So let's assume they're numbers. So 200 for height, and let's say the same for width, or let's say 250 for width. I think I might have done something like that in the past. So that's the default window size. That's what we'll pass in here. We need to define a size type, which is just going to be these two pieces right here, but they're numbers. There we go. So we're on the same page still at the moment. And we have our height and our width. And now that these are just called exactly that, we can just import them exactly like that. So we can just say height and width, and that's all we need there. And then we have set size. I'm not going to set size here yet, but that actually, no, yeah, let's do it. So that's where the on resize stop. We need to look at how that function was looking before. So this is the on resize stop function. Let's make something similar to that. Going to comment it out. So if I hover over this, it's already going to tell me that this is this RND resize callback. And if I right click and go to type definition, go to definition, go to definition, here we go. So I can kind of see what these things are exactly. And I can copy that in there too, so I have access to it. So let's just write the function that I wanted to write that kind of handles that. So when there's an on resize stop, we want to take the event was the first thing, the mouse event. I'm not going to use the event. What I want is this ref here, element ref, because that's what they've used here for the width and their height. So we got event, we got direction I don't need. I'm doing underscores in front of things that I don't need them. And then we got the ref here, which they've called ref here, but I'm going to call it element ref. They've called this one dir, and this one's called direction. It's all over the place. I prefer to be very clear with what it is. It's like the types they've called correctly. Why not just call the variables that? So element ref we're going to use, but I think we can go straight into destructing it, honestly. Am I looking at the right example? Is this for, what is this for, the resizing piece? Yeah. Why is it saying ref style? Why would you get it from the style? I guess that's okay. I have in my notes where I was getting it from the offset height. I wonder if in some part in their example at some point they do that. Okay, here in this example they do. What's the difference? That's weird. Here on resize, within the ref, they're using offset width. But here, oh. So on resize stop, it can get it from the style. But on resize, it gets it from the offset height. Well, maybe we'll use the style then. If that's how it's doing it, let's do it how it's doing it. So again, I wanted to destruct this out. So let's just say there's the element, and within style, we got our height and width right here. Height and width. And nice that they're already named that. That'll make our saving part a little quicker. Our save set state. So like we have here set size. Set size is this piece right here. There we go. And I don't even need that function to look like that. So that's the basics of set size. And what's it complaining about here? What isn't it complaining about? Height. Oh, it's a string. Interesting. So maybe we should use a string the entire time then. If this is going to be pixels, then maybe our defaults should indeed be strings. Let's just use strings then. If these are coming as strings. Oh, I've got height too many times here too. Height. Yeah. All right, one problem at a time. So I'm gonna have to call this, I'll call this the element height, and the element width. And we're gonna have to do that because I've just got height and width defined too many times here and we're getting variable shadowing. So that'll clean up that part. If I press save, that should look cleaner. Yeah, a little verbose, but it gets the message across, and I'm gonna move this into a hook anyways. So now I have to fix the default size here. Now this has to be like that. I'm okay with that. Okay, that should be fixed now. Why is it still complaining? There, cool. So we've got our on resize stop event, and we've got a size. So now if I go in here and I refresh the page, there we go. So I think our background's not complete, but as you see here when I hover, it's giving me resize cursors now. And it's not looking correct, I think, because maybe the background color is not full. Yeah, that's the actual div right there. So you see if I actually had a background color for this piece, there we go. So if that's red, now when I resize, yeah, you see now you can see it. So cool, so that's actually resizing working there. Yeah, so now we have a resize and we have drag. That's like a window right there. And remember the buttons that close and minimize and maximize are somewhere here. They're hidden, but because they have no size to them yet. But that's a good start for that little piece right there. So let's refresh this and just see where we are and see how close it is to where I want to be. So we have the on resize, we have enable resize, we have the size, and we have on resize stop. I think that's exactly what I wanted. So I think we can turn this into a hook now is the next thing I want to do. Oh, there's another big aspect. Well, let's turn this into a hook first, but then I want to talk about those cursors, because if you look at the page here, when it was doing that resize and you see this cursor where it's like two arrows pointing out and like double lines, that's not the same resize cursor that you get when you're resizing a window. Like you see here, if you see my mouse here, if I go over to the left of my actual window, it's actually like an arrow. It's like one line with arrows pointing like that. It's not like this cursor that it's trying to give. So we need to change the cursors on all of those. And it's not a ton of work. Let me show you guys. I have a link to actually the cursor values. Again, to MDN. MDN has everything. So there's the CSS cursor, and you can actually set different cursors. You see, these are all the different cursors you can set. And there's a drag and drop one, and then for resizing, so the ones it's currently using are these generic garbage ones, col resize, row resize. But these ones here, this n resize, e resize, yada, 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 these are what we want. These are essentially the same ones that the Windows OS is using. So, and the OSs in general, I've found, are using those cursors. So those are the ones we're going to use. back to the code. Where are we with this? Because I've, yes, we made that piece. So I'm going to do the cursors. I'll get to that in a minute. The next thing I wanted to do though was to turn this into a hook. So I'm going to call it use resizable, because I thought that was kind of a cool idea for it. Use resizable. And what do I need from that? I need to get, well, the only thing that I need to know from it is the maximize state, actually, because that will allow me to, because what I want the use resize to return is the same stuff that's going right here, basically the height, the width, and I want a function that I can drop into the on resize stop area that'll just update size for me without me having to worry about it. So I'm going to say all I need is the maximized state as a Boolean. I need you to give me that for my hook. And I'll handle the state. And I'll handle this function. This is going to be the resize function. I'm going to call it update size though. And it's going to use the use callback that we love so much, that I love so much. That's where the function's going to go. And it relies on, what does it rely on? Practically nothing. I don't think it relies on anything. No, it doesn't. Yeah, so it has 0 dependencies. So we save that. So that's part of the hook. And now we just need to actually use it here. So now the hook can be at this piece here. Use, and what did I want to get from it? I wanted to get very similar to this stuff, but I'll get it all as an object now. So let's say we get the height, the width, and we get a function called update size. And I'm going to pass update size directly into here. And it's going to be, oh, Prettier's complaining. Whatever this piece is, R&D resize callback. So that's what this is going to be as well. Oops. And let me import that. No, why isn't it letting me import it? Oh, I must have it somewhere. Here, I've already got it written down. So let me just paste that in. It's just this thing here. Yeah, it's just that one there. So that defined that. So what did I want to return here? I just wrote it down. I wanted to return these 3 pieces. Oops. So they're going to come from the use resizable, which I pass in maximized. What's it complaining about there? Boolean or undefined. Yeah. Same thing. Jeez, you got to watch out for these anywhere you go. So that needs to be passed in. And that's already defined its type. I'm not using it here, aren't I? I think I should be here. Ah, yes, here. So I'm not going to have it change the set size, but I will have it change what gets returned here in the height and the width. So basically, if it is maximized, then I want you to return 100%. Otherwise, return the height state. And it's the same thing here for width. If it's maximized, 100%, otherwise return the width. There we go. That part's correct. And then, yeah, I guess this is correct here, the way it's doing set size. It just looks weird the way it decided to format it, so I'm a little like confused by it. I'm just comparing this to what I have. Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted. So let's put this into a hook. I find when you take things out and you put them in a hook, it's like, oh, that's all that was happening there. Like it really helps you break up the idea. So I really love hooks. Honestly, that got me into React. So we're just going to take all these pieces are what we need. We'll just paste them in there. So that was all that made up the hook. Let's save that. There might have been more. Yeah, there was a bit more. There's these pieces too. We got to export it as a default. It doesn't have to be default, but that's how I roll. There we go. So what's it complaining about here? Missing return type. Ah, yes. So we haven't defined what this type will be, but we do absolutely need to define it. It's the type. What do we call this? We'll call this resizable, I guess. Resizable. And what is it? So it's going to return the size, the height and width, and it's also going to return that function, which is going to be called update size and it's equivalent to the R&D resize callback. Nice, that looks correct. So if I say this is here, that should clear that up. There we go. So you see how simple that is now. So it's like use resizable, pass me maximized. I'm gonna keep track of this height and width. There's the default. And if this event occurs, then we need to update that. And this will keep the height and width in sync with, and then if it's maximized, that's when it returns 100. But it remembers the height and width that were not maximized. That's important. And now we'll import those here, import that here. So now we've extracted that out very simply into a very clean hook. That's like, here's your height, here's your width, and here's your updater. And I'll take care of all the magic in the background. So let's see how that looks. Did we break drag? Okay, drag still works, and resize still works, in theory. I mean, it's easier to see if we have that height, or if we have that background color. Let's put that back one more time just for our tests here. There we go. So if I resize that, yeah, cool. So resize, and when I stop, you see this height, the resize stays, so it doesn't try to like jump back, which would probably happen if I had update size wrong, I'm thinking. So let's refresh this so it's not bright red. How close is that to the resizing that I wanted? Pretty good. I think then all we have to do is discuss the cursor thing that I was telling you guys about. So that's where it gets into the cursors I've shown you and this piece called the resize handle styles. So this is a cool little part of R&D is they let you replace all those styles without having to mess around with like global class names or something like that. You can just pass in the properties here for all the different corners and stuff. And also you can set their offsets as well, because I've noticed that the offsets are not correct when they don't match exactly what Windows matches, but it's possible to get there. And that's what this CSS that I'm about to just like vomit onto the screen here, because it's a lot. But we're gonna extract that out into a place. So let's just dump it in here just to show you. So that's right now that's in JSON format, because I want to extract it out into JSON format. But we can actually do, how can we do this? We can do like that, dot, 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 and then in brackets, get that out of there. Put the JSON in there. That probably will not work. If I put this like this too, is that how you do that? Yeah, there we go. Cool. So this is not long term. This is just an example. So you see here the code. I basically just put those cursors that I was showing you guys. So I just replace the cursor with the correct Windows cursor. And then I did these 3, 12, 6 pixel adjustments, depending, you know, like a bit more to the left, a bit more to the right. And I'll show you where that shows up. So you see when I open a window now, and I drag it. So if I hover over the resize, you see now it's the arrows I want, those same arrows that point in the right direction. And you see how they're right on the edge. Whereas if I don't have that offset, they weren't quite right. So I much prefer those cursors. Those are the cursors we're going to use straight up. But obviously not in that format like this. So let's undo this. And what I wanted to do is basically I'm going to have a file called R&D defaults. And I'm going to put all the default stuff like that thing I just pasted into this. So we're going to make it, and we're just going to dump it in utils for now until I think of a better place for it. R&D defaults.ts. And we're going to export that like so. And then I'm going to paste in what I had there, that JSON. So that's the first little piece, the resize handle styles. And there was also one other little thing I wanted to add. And if we go into it here, it's called this enable user select hack. By default, we add user select none attributes to the document body to prevent ugly text selection during drag. So I already have this applied globally. So I'm going to, by default on all my R&D windows, not use that. And I say all, but I think this is the only one I'm ever going to use. But it's a default function. It's a default thing that I want this to be true. Enable user select hack. Yes. By default, yeah. Enable user select hack. No, I want that to be false. No user select hack. Pass. Don't need it. That's what I wanted, yeah. There we go. So R&D defaults, and then now I can just import this in. There we go. So there we go. So that's a little more clean. So now the window doesn't get all bogged down with all that cursor stuff, but just having this little piece here allows me to have the cursors that I want and get rid of that hack that we don't need. So now you see when I hover over, yeah, there's the cursors I want. That's correct. And yeah, I think the offset's perfect there, but I might mess with it. If I mess with it, I'll tell you guys if I change it. So what do we got now? I think we have the whole piece of resizing. We added React R&D, which also does dragging, but I'm going to have another piece where I show you guys the dragging part next. We added maximized so that we could know if it needs to be 100%. Now we don't have a maximized button yet. Well, actually we do. Let's try to make that visible now. I'm going to do the same thing I did to that last one, and I'm just going to define a size for it. So where's the maximize button? This one here. Let's say its width is 15 pixels and its height is 15 pixels. There we go. So you guys see that square up there. So if I click this square, I'm assuming it's going to set maximize to true, which is going to do in the use resizable hook is going to mean 100% on height and width. Let's click it. I don't know if it did or not. I think it did actually, but I think I just don't have the effect to make that relevant. Yeah, you see when I hover over here now how the window's quite large. There's some other issues. So like first off, my window doesn't have a background color. So if I set the window to have a background color here, right, so the background's red. So now if I unmaximize, you see the size changes. But another thing that's not happening is that I need it to happen with maximize. This will come in on the drag side of things, is I also need to update the position. So when it's maximized, it needs to be at top 0, left 0, and 100%, 100%. So actually 100%, not 100% height. I need to subtract the taskbar. I'll make a note to do that later. Let's make a note here. Subtract taskbar height. Yeah, cool. I'll just clarify that for later. Because yeah, this wouldn't be 100% height on a maximized window, I don't think. Because that's not how Windows does it. Windows only maximizes up to the taskbar as far as height goes. Let's refresh this page again so we're not staring at bright red. So just focusing on use resizable for now. I think we've got it mostly done. We got that when resize stops, it updates. We got the size being set here. I think there was another piece to this size puzzle that I'm forgetting. Maybe not though. Oh, wait a minute though. How is it gonna know? Let's go back to the browser for a second and just double check the code that they used in their example. So they have on resize stop, it sets it here. They have the size here. I think that's enough, yeah. Oh, you know what I think it is too? I think if we go back to the code here, I think we're gonna have to sync the size and height of the styled window. Or, no, I think the styled window will just be 100%, 100%, and it's just gonna be contained within this resizable R&D window. I mean, we're not gonna get into styling today, I feel like, so let's not worry about that, but I might need to pass this style information on to another element. I don't think so though. I don't think so. So let's just see. Maybe for position, but maybe not. Let us commit this. Added resize hook. Let's call it. Just keep it simple there. There we go. So we got our resize hook. So we've done resizing. We discussed which thing we're using. We discussed the cursors. Now let's do the dragging, which is the other big piece. Oh, is there a piece of resize I missed? Okay. Yeah, again, I'm questioning. I see in my notes that just like I was telling you guys, I had added here this piece so that style, height, and width, so that stayed lockstep with it. But again, I'm feeling like this should just be 100%, because if I'm setting the container, it's like, just use that, dude. So let's not do that, and let's just see where that gets us down the line when we start discussing styling again. Maybe we'll have a whole episode about styling. We need a whole episode about styling, a whole episode about tests, or like 3 episodes about tests. We haven't done any tests. Like the last test we did was basically the Hello World one. So We just started rolling with these features, but I'm having more fun with that. So let's just keep it that way. All right, so we're done resizing. Let's get into the dragging because that's fun too. So back to React R&D here, and let's search for drag. So we have some here, drag, on drag, stop, and position. Those I think are gonna be good ones too. Those are gonna be ones we need. So let's just throw those in too. So on drag, stop, that can go here alphabetically speaking. And that's gonna be that same kind of idea. We're gonna go right to making a hook, and we're just gonna make one just like the resize one. So this would be called update position then, I guess, right? If this is update size, then let's try to make that an update position function. And it's going to be taking, if we hover over this, draggable event handler. So if we, like we can do again, we go definition, then we go drag callback, was that it? Yeah, go definition. Geez, you got to go deep to find it here. What is it called? Okay, so there's those, that's its data. Pretty simple. They weren't very verbose with their naming here. So I'm just copying this stuff in just so I have reference when I'm reading it, basically, because I have to make a function that kind of fits this idea. So I just like to paste it in here, but I'm going to move that in a second. And then position here, LMNOP. Position would go here. And position is just going to be that X, Y. So we're just going to do that. We're just going to say X and Y. And I think that's it. On drag, stop. I think there was one other drag field that we wanted. Drag, not the drag grid, not scale. No, the drag handle class. We might need to change the cursor there. I don't think so. We might need to because there shouldn't be any cursor at all, but we'll fix that at another date. Disable dragging. Ah, yes, this is the one. We want to conditionally disable dragging if it's maximized, right? If it's maximized, you don't want to be moving it around. It should be locked at 0 and 0. So that's maximized. That's if it's not maximized. This is our update position. So let's also make that use draggable one. Use draggable. And what information did this thing need? It needed just the X and the Y. Okay, so let's just say we return X and Y and update position from use draggable. And let's say it doesn't need anything. I think that's false. I think we need height and width and maybe even maximized for draggable, but let's just think it through, right? So let's make the function, let's make the hook here so we can just use it in the same reference here. For now I say I don't need anything. I don't need nothing from you. But I'm pretty sure I will. So let's look here. How did I implement this? Actually, let's look at how they implemented it. So on drag, let's just kind of see, oops. So there's not super good examples. Basically, they just, I mean, I can do the callback piece, but then we have to think on it harder. Let's do the callback piece then. That's easy enough. So if it's like this, let's just take that out of here and put it in here. And say we're gonna have something called, well, we need those states. Let's just do one thing at a time here. We need that X and the Y state, and we need the set position here. We do set position within the hook, update within the calling of the hook, or with the return data. It's also a use state. And it's probably going to be a position one, position, and its default is going to be the default window position, right? Default window position. And for now, the default window position is just going to be very simple. It's going to be 0 and 0. And I think these can be numbers. I would be surprised if not. So let's say type position equals X is a number and Y is a number, right? I think everybody knows that. And we got position there. We got default window position there. Okay. So that gets us the position. And we know what we want to return, right? Because we just showed it here. Sometimes I enjoy the programming like this where you're building it out and it's like, I don't even remember how to implement it. But if I'm just like, I know I wanted this and I know I need that, and you just keep building on it, and eventually it's like, oh, I just made it, you know, and you don't even remember like if you just had to throw all that out in one go, it's a lot harder. So we want to update position, so we need update position function, and it's using use callback, and we know it's a draggable event handler, right? And then we can do the function, which we know is like this kind of format, but we know it's an event and it's data. So let's do the same kind of nicer way to do it. An event that we don't need, and then the data, and we're going to just destruct the data right away because we can see here that the data is an X and a Y. So let's just go right to taking those. And we already got XY here, so we're going to do the same wording we did for use resize. What was that? It was element, right? So I'm going to call it element X and element Y. Although this isn't the element this time, it's the data. It's the same thing, honestly. And what does this do? This is going to take the position, and it's just going to set a new position, basically. Set the position to be X is element X, and Y is element Y. Right? Yes, that makes logical sense, I think. So, and because this is use callback here, we also need to define the dependencies, which I don't think there are any in this case. Let me think on that. Yeah, nothing there. What is all this complaints? Implicit. Okay, we need to import this. Again, it's having trouble importing. Again, I already know where it is in my import, so I'm just gonna, that's it right there. So there we go. Now that it knows what that is, this cleaned up and this isn't complaining anymore. I guess I don't have use state. Let me get use state in here. So what have we got so far? So basically we're just setting position and we're updating it here. Why would we need to know the height and the width? I think that was for another piece where I wanted to do centering of the position. Let's save that to another commit, and let's just focus on it being at this 0, default for now. Because I think that's what I did last time. Yeah, and then I had like an onload where, oh, that's weird the way I had it. Yeah, let's not worry about any of that. Maximized. We need to worry about maximized. That's what I forgot last time. Or that's what I forgot this time to remember to mention. We do need maximized. Just like we needed here. And I'm going to copy this the same actually with equals false. Just set a default. And what does it return? It returns draggable. And what is draggable? It's going to be type draggable equals the position and the update position function, which is the draggable event handler. All right. What is this complaining about here? Oh, I spelled that wrong. Darn it. There we go. Nice. So where we need maximize is the same place we needed it on our resize hook, is that X and Y behave differently if it's maximized. So if it's maximized, then it's a 0. Otherwise, it's whatever X was. Maximized, it's a 0. Otherwise, it's whatever Y was. So there we go. So for now, we got maximized. And in the near future, this is going to also need to take in the height and the width. Assuming I want to center it positionally within the screen, which I'm not even sure I want to now that I think about it. I might just have a default offset of some amount. So actually, let's just leave that as it is because it's a heck of a lot more simple. And yeah, I'd have to add a bunch of complexity just to get centering. And I don't even know if I want it centered. The window, that is. Use draggable.ts. Let's export this out, what we got right now. That's every piece of it there, except this. Okay, and we need to export it. Export default, use draggable. This is very similar to the resize one. You see where it's got the, let's open the resize one at the same time and you can see how similar they are. It's like this one's about size, that's position, draggable versus which callback occurs, it's default, it takes in maximized, it keeps track of these. So you see there's a lot of code there, but because you separate it into hooks, it's like very simple. Like this is about a draggable and it's about X, Y, and updating. This is about this and it's about that, you know? Before it was such a mess. I've had it in the past, these things. Before I really kind of got the hang of hooks. Not to say that I've completely got it figured out, but it's a step in the right direction. Subtract taskbar height. Yeah, so for that, that's okay. And I might add another to-do here to allow centering, maybe. Maybe I'll put a question mark here for now of, do I even want a question mark? I think I actually did like it centered on the screen. I think that that's probably a nice way to have it. So maybe I'll put it as a to-do for now. Center on screen. Because I actually have an implemented way of centering it on the screen, but looking at it now, it's a little kludgy. I'm not super happy with it actually. So because we don't really need height or width at the moment, I'm actually going to put this one above the other one alphabetically. Use D, use R kind of thing. Import it like so. It imported nice. And there we go. So now we have draggable as well. Cool. Along with that maximize logic. So we can use that maximize thing to test out. Oh God, don't do that. Maybe if I put this here. No, don't put it there. Yeah, let's put it there for now. That's good. So let's check it out. Let's refresh the page again because that seems to help. So we open it, we drag. It seems to be dragging without a problem. Oh, it has a problem when I click figure, but we'll figure that out later. And our resizing still works. So now let's check out maximized again and see if that's behaving at all. I'm just gonna reveal the button here. Width 15 pixels. Yeah, width is all I needed to set. So now if I hit maximized, assuming my draggable part is correct, it's going to see that maximized is true, and it's also going to adjust the position to be 0 and 0. So if I click, there we go. So it's at the top. And oh, I'm going to unmaximize, and I'm going to set the background color also so that you can see that it's actually legit maximizing. Background color red. So you see here, we got our window, it's resizable, blah, blah, blah. And then I hit maximize. There we go, that's maximized. You see, and also including the taskbar, that we have to fix, but we'll do that another date. It's looking good. So I minimize, unminimize. Oh, that's weird. So when I minimize, the window didn't go away or something? That's interesting. That might be an argument for not even handling minimization at the place that I'm handling it right now. Yeah, right now I'm handling it here within the styled window. But it almost should be here, or, You know what I can do with the magic of styled CSS or styled components, and just Sass I think has this feature, is that I could probably target back one window at the div. What is this div called? It's called React Draggable. Okay, that's fair. That probably is good enough for my purposes. Let's try to target that then. So where's styled window again? It's here. What if I were to say display? So if I say .this, .react draggable, and that, then display gets affected. So now if I minimize, let me refresh and just see if it actually does make a difference. So I'm gonna open the window. I'm gonna set that background color so I can see the draggables background color red, let's say. So if I minimize that, no, that's not working yet. So I'm gonna undo this code change. I'm gonna leave that like that for now. Minimize is like 12% working, but it can't just be here, it has to be up there. So let's make a note of that. Minimize is not hiding the R&D window. Also the maximize height is going beyond taskbar limit, and windows should open in center. There we go. I like to write these notes sometimes so that I don't have a ton of to-dos in the code. I don't like to have any, to be honest, unless it is really relevant to a line. But if it's just like, hey, in this line add stuff, I would almost rather put a note to that somewhere. So, and also at least some notes for my next stream so people have some stuff to kind of look forward to if they want to. Okay, so let's go back to what the heck I was doing here. So I added the dragging part. That was working, I believe, including for maximized, I think. The position part was right. We got our draggable hook now. It's not doing centering, but we're going to worry about that another time. What else was there? I don't know if there was anything else, honestly. Oh, totally there is. Totally there is. So in regards to dragging, I mean, again, it's hard to tell because it's not styled, but if we inspect here and we look at the header, and I'm just going to background color that to red. So that top piece there, that's the title bar. And as you guys know in Windows, if you want to drag something, you drag it from the title bar. You don't just pick anywhere in the window and move it. So we only want the title bar to be what's draggable, nowhere else. Now, luckily, that is extremely easy to do with React R&D. Again, if you search here, we got drag handle class name. Specifies a selector to be used as the handle that initiates drag. Example, handle. So let's use handle. Let's call it handle. And basically just set this parameter. Set this, whatever you want to call it, variable parameter. Now, I'm going to set this in the defaults because this is a default, basically. I always want it to work this way. For these R&D windows, that handle will always be the handle. So if we go into our R&D defaults that I made, there we go, and we just add that thing that was called this drag handle class name, and we will call it handle, like so. Cool. And now another note to that is that when you click on the maximize, minimize, or close buttons, and you try to drag, there you can't drag. So in that area, we don't want it to drag. And once again, React R&D has thought of that. There's another thing called cancel. The cancel property disabled specifies a selector to be used to prevent drag initialization. Example here is .body. Now a little aha here that's kind of weird is you notice how there's a dot there? You actually need to stay .class name on the cancel setting, but you don't need to do .class name on the drag setting. So that's a little tricky one for you guys. So in this case, cancel, and the example was .whatever body, but I'm going to call it .cancel in this case. And then we just need to set these class names somewhere now. So if we go into our title bar, which is where the dragging will occur, we just set, okay, so the title bar's class name can be the handle, but the nav is a cancel part. There we go. So now when you go here to the window, you see here, I can't drag if I'm clicking, but if I go over to there, I can drag. So I guess here is not the title bar, I don't know. Or maybe this is the nav actually, this is the nav. Again, nothing's styled, so it's kind of rough right now, but this piece, let's I'm gonna inspect it quick and just color the nav differently here. Background color, blue. Okay, cool. So as you can see when it was red, it's within the title bar. But the blue part you see doesn't drag and the red part does. So that's the way we want it. If there's a title bar, and there's part that you can drag, and there's part you can't, and the window itself is no longer draggable. So now it's even more isolated in that way. And yeah, so those are two more defaults that we did. I just want to see, what else am I missing? I think that was it, honestly. That was it. Yeah, I have some code for that centering piece, but I don't really want to get into that because I actually question what I've written now. I don't like it, so maybe we'll just not do that piece for now. So I think we're ready. I think we're ready to commit this. We got the draggable working the way we want. We got resizable. We got it all, guys. We got it all. So let's say added draggable hook. And with that, we have done a lot here. We've essentially done everything from this piece as well. We got our click handler, we got our min and max, we got a title bar, we got resize, we got dragging. So stylistically, it's a bit rough, the window, but functionally, it's all there. And next episode, we're going to style it. I've got all the styles, but it's a lot. It's like an hour and a half to explain to you guys all the different styling that I've done. So I want to go through it. I don't want to gloss over it, but I don't think this episode's the one for it. I don't have the energy at 11:30 p.m. to get any more into this styling. So I think the next stream is also going to be styling, probably. And I'm going to cut all these pieces. These are the things I've already finished. I haven't finished styling, but I've got it pretty far along. So actually the button I think is exactly the same. Yeah, don't worry about the button. But the file entry, I've cleaned up the file entry and the file manager for the desktop to properly use CSS grid, and it's very close to the Windows icons, better than it was in my V1, so I feel. The title bar I've pretty much got perfect actually as well. I've got it looking just like the Windows 10 one, so we'll go over that next episode. It's really easy, honestly. When you look at the Windows 10 bar, it's just black with white text. When you hover over the close button, it's basically red. It slowly fades in over like 300, 400 milliseconds. The max and min are kind of a gray when you hover over them. There's not much to it, honestly. It's interesting, you know? So I think it'll be a fun one to get into. And yeah, the window kind of comes along with that. And then we'll have the proper resizing too, so things resize properly. We'll figure out that minimize problem to get that kind of cleaned up. But yeah, I think we've gone through a huge chunk today, guys. I'm going to push these last commits. And let's just take a quick little peek at our code, or our app here on a local host here, and just kind of play with it a bit. So I double click, I get a window, I can drag it here on the fake title bar, whatever parts of the title bar. I can't drag it here and here. I can resize like that. Oh, that's weird. Oh, why did I do that? Oh, here we go. Here's our first mistake. I mean, here's where we get into the debugging. These are things I'm gonna have to figure out, and then I kind of explain to you guys when I know what the heck went wrong. But if you look here, I was dragging and I did a resize. Oh, that's weird, hey? So when I resized it, the position did not seem to account for that correctly. Why is that, I wonder? Is this considered like a drag stop too? Maybe this is where the other way that I had resize makes more sense. Let me just quickly peek how I had resize, because it could be fighting with it. See, I had it as on resize, not on resize stop. So if we go back to the code here, and we go to where was it? It would be in the window itself. System window index. Yeah, this piece here, I have on resize stop, but that's actually not the way it was in the example, I think. On resize, where's the first example? Yeah, the first example actually is like that. It is on drag stop, on resize stop. But why am I getting that wonkiness then? On drag stop, on resize stop, size, and position. I actually have all of those, but it's not quite working as expected. Let me try to make it on resize for a second and see if that in any way improves anything. So now when I hover, let me refresh because I changed it. So I open that. Oh, dragging's rough. You see, now it's not acting wonky. Interesting. Maybe there's something to that. I have to think about the reasoning why, but I must have already decided last time that made sense. It should be on drag stop though, honestly. So maybe I'm just using the wrong element. See, now it's working. Yeah, now it's working like expected. It's not doing that jumpiness, but I don't know if that makes sense. Let's go back to here. Let's put it back to be on resize stop. But we need to go to the definition of update size. Instead of this thing here where we're using style, let's try to use the offset of the element. Because I at one point had that. What was that? That's like, it's just called offset height, offset width. Let's try that. So not style, but instead offset height and offset width. Height, width. Oh, it hates that. Oh, I have an excess of brackets. There we go. Oh, why is it complaining height now? Oh, so now this is a number again. Okay, let's just do a quick conversion here to pixels using template literal format here for the string plus number stuff. So that's strings again. So I save that. And if I refresh this page again, open that, move it a little bit. I'm going to set that background color again for my test. Background color. This is like not the best way to do this. Okay, so now if I resize, okay, that actually stopped the jerky motion too. So I think maybe this is the better approach, and maybe it would have worked had I had it like before where I was setting style also. I'm not sure, but I actually like this. Like if this works, oh wait, I didn't save this, darn it. So that was still set to on resize probably. So now I've got everything saved. That's a legitimate test. Once again, set the background color. So let's see if it's jumpy again. And if it's not jumpy, I think this is the better approach. So I resize. Oh, it's still jumpy. So, okay, I don't like that at all. So let's undo what we did here. I did prefer that how it was a second ago. Like that. I like that it's numbers. So that's okay like that. But this needs to be on resize for now. Until I figure it out. And I'm going to make another note and I'm going to say, why does on resize drop cause jumpiness? And there's an answer for that. I just have to figure it out. This is a lot of the fun that I had with setting up the windows last time, was getting all the positional stuff right. And it gets really hard later on when we get to the point where we're doing animations in and out. We got multiple windows going on and things like that. There does become a lot of offset calculation that can kind of get a bit frustrating. So it'll be fun to get into, and I'd like to turn that into better hooks this time. So, okay, so what did I just tweak there? Yeah, so use on resize instead of on resize stop for now, ... until I figure out the correct way to do it. Okay, that's nice. Let's take a peek at the pipeline and just see how things are going there and see if anything's just completely failed on me. Actions. Oh yeah, added draggable hook. So even just as long as 6 minutes ago, I'm actually passing everything still. So that's pretty good, honestly. Let's try an npm run build and just make sure build still works. Actually, one of the tests is build, I think. So if the pipeline passed, it probably will pass. But yeah, we've essentially done all of those things. The window works, so I'm sorry it looks so ugly right now, guys, but that's the styling step, and that's going to be that's going to be next week, I think, probably. Other than that, I'm just trying to find if I have any other commits worth discussing, but no, I think we've done them all. Man, we've done them all minus the styling, so I'm proud of us. I think yeah. So let's jump back. So thank you guys for staying with me. Like, subscribe if you enjoyed what we did here. Like I say, it's not styled, but we've added a ton more functionality yet again. We're only a couple episodes away from really being able to start making apps, really. I mean, the start menu is going to be another fun one. We still got a lot of styling to do on the windows. We got a file manager app. There's still a lot to do. So plus on the next stream, I think is going to be focused on styling. Hopefully, I guess we'll see how much refactoring and stuff I do, but I want to clean up the theme and I want to get it visually where people are like, oh man, this is starting to look like Windows. I mean, I think I already have a little bit of that, but there can always be more. So this has been a longer stream too. Luckily, I'm at 2 hours, 45 minutes. So that's nice. Closer to the 3 hour mark that I used to do back in the day. Hopefully I didn't jump around too much for you guys and you guys liked it. I mean, feel free to leave comments after the fact, about how you guys felt about it, what you want to see in the next one, that kind of thing, questions. I've had nothing but good feedback so far, so keep it coming. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks for tuning in for another episode, and I'm just gonna keep them coming, and we're gonna keep making this thing better. So I'll throw the stream notes in this commit, or in the next commit, and I'll put a link to them in the YouTube show notes for you guys, along with all the chapters and everything, so you know where things are. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and see you in the next one.